Jie stroked the 10,000 soul banner. No, from now on, this thing in his hand could be called the Emperor's banner. He handed the 10,000 soul banner to Han Ruyan. In Han Ruyan's hands, the 10,000 soul banner could exert greater power. After all, she had the heavenly spinning jade light body and could command all spirits. She was the true ghost empress, with natural abilities to enhance the power of such demon and ghost artifacts. Wife, you're about to be promoted, aren't you? After carefully examining Han Ruyan a few times, Su Jie felt the increasingly real aura on her body. Others might not understand, but Su Jie knew very well that for Han Ruyan to be promoted to 9th grade, she could truly condense from an illusory fierce ghost into a human form, returning from illusion to reality, and could freely shift between the tangible and intangible. Within 3 years, 9th grade, Han Ruyan raised her chin and gave an answer. Great, that's wonderful. Su Jie grinned widely. A 9th grade fierce ghost. Su Jie felt that if Han Ruyan reached that level, even a purple mansion cultivator could confront her head-on. Though also a 9th grade fierce ghost, Han Ruyan was different. Her combat power wasn't something other 9th grade fierce ghosts could compare to. She could completely overpower ghosts of the same grade. If Han Ruyan ascended to a 9th grade fierce ghost, Su Jie couldn't even imagine how immense the gain in combat strength would be. Moreover, Su Jie also thought that once Han Ruyan became a 9th grade fierce ghost, they could truly consummate their union as husband and wife. Although currently calling each other wife and husband, they were only so in name, not in practice. Are you thinking about something nasty? Han Ruyan seemed to see through Su Jie's little thoughts and spoke out suddenly. Su Jie blinked his eyes and unabashedly said, I'm waiting to have our wedding night with you. There will be. Under Su Jie's gaze, Han Ruyan's pale cheeks unexpectedly flushed with a faint hint of red. As she approached the promotion to 9th grade fierce ghost, she was also regaining more and more of her 7 emotions and 6 desires, recalling the memories of her previous life, becoming more and more like a human. Of course, she only looked like this in front of Su Jie. To outsiders, Han Ruyan was still that terrifying ghost bride. Even those in the Taoist platform realm would shudder at her mention. After exchanging a few flirtatious words with Han Ruyan, Su Jie muttered again. Speaking of which, why hasn't Shao Qian come back yet? Is he playing too wildly to want to return home? The 1,000-handed centipede, whom Su Jie was thinking about, was indeed having a great time. It was a rare opportunity to be let out to roam freely in Blue Star by Su Jie. Although Blue Star was a spiritless environment, not as good as Tianyuan World, it could still experience the joy of being the overlord here. Needless to say, in the Tianyuan World, the ancestor of Ghost Ridge Palace, the annual ringworm, was a 9-grade goo worm, and, removing the fact that it didn't like to move, its strength was even stronger than the 1,000-handed centipede. Now that it had Su Jie's permission, having the chance to come out once, it certainly didn't want to return home so quickly. After completing the task of destroying Tokyo, the 1,000-handed centipede soared in the sky, flying over Japan and the surrounding regions. This action caused extremely severe consequences, not to mention Japan, which had been ravaged by the 1,000-handed centipede. The surrounding countries were all on high alert, nervously watching this destructive beast, fearing that it would descend upon their own countries. Such a terrifying and astonishing sea monster would make any country shudder. The fact that this sea monster could destroy Tokyo City in a short time meant that the centipede sea monster had the capability to destroy any city globally. Its terrifying destructive power could be considered a walking, human-shaped natural disaster. Adjacent to Japan, the whole of South Korea let out a unified cry of frustration, constantly cursing Japan, and praying that this centipede sea monster wouldn't come to their country. Fortunately, it was a relief to know that the 1,000-handed centipede did not run rampant in other countries. The 1,000-handed centipede knew that these countries and their populations were Su Jie's wealth, and for the 1,000-handed centipede itself, it needed humans to help raise insects, as it relied on humans to provide its feed. If not necessary, it wouldn't go on a killing spree, just like herders wouldn't pointlessly kill or beat the cattle and sheep they raised for a living. This time, it was only because Japan had gone too far that the 1,000-handed centipede was dispatched. Soaring through the chaos in Japan, the 1,000-handed centipede occasionally skimmed low over Japanese cities below, causing panic and disorder among the Japanese population. Each large city in Japan, affected by the presence of the thousand-handed centipede, sparked a massive migration spree. Numerous city residents fled the cities, bringing their families with them, all afraid of following in Tokyo's footsteps. If their city were attacked, they too could end up as corpses. Conversely, heading to the countryside was seen as somewhat safer, as the lower population density was at least less likely to attract the giant centipede sea monster's attention. As for the wealthy and powerful in Japan, most chose to flee the country. Tickets for international flights and ferries became extremely scarce, with prices skyrocketing to several hundred times their usual rate. The enormous profits still drew some airlines and shipping companies to take risks, as the profits were too enticing. Even with the threat of sea monsters, some persisted in making money regardless. With this, the entire nation of Japan fell into disarray. People fled with their families, and the wealthy were also running away and transferring their assets. Japan's economy was crumbling like an avalanche. The destruction of Tokyo alone had already dealt a heavy blow to Japan's economy. Now, under the intangible threat of the thousand-handed centipede, the economy further collapsed, especially in those major cities where property prices plummeted to dirt-cheap levels without any buyers. Based on the sea monsters' movements, it seemed these sea monsters coming ashore loved attacking cities. So living in cities made one risk becoming a meal for the sea monster. It's akin to how, in the event of a nuclear war, large cities would always be high-value targets for enemy nuclear strikes first. Naturally, property prices in large cities would be unstable. Conversely, going to the countryside, no one would arbitrarily launch a nuclear bomb there for no reason. Even though the thousand-handed centipede was just soaring in the sky, the blow it dealt to Japan was no less impactful than the destruction of Tokyo. The organizational structure of this country was collapsing, and the economy was plummeting. Even if the thousand-handed centipede did not attack again, its existence was like a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of the Japanese people. No one knew when the thousand-handed centipede would launch another destructive attack on a city. Indeed, the thousand-handed centipede was playing. It first circled Japan a few times in the sky, even going to Mount Fuji for a while, seemingly considering it as its lair, an action that terrified all of Japan, fearing that Mount Fuji might be destroyed by the thousand-handed centipede. However, Mount Fuji did not meet the fancy of the thousand-handed centipede. Despite being the highest peak in Japan, it didn't catch the eye of the thousand-handed centipede. It had seen far grander, more majestic spiritual vein mountains with denser spiritual energy in the Tianyuan world. To use such a mountain as a lair was rather ordinary for it. The thousand-handed centipede then flew to the Fukushima region of Japan, where it encountered those storage tanks containing nuclear wastewater. These tanks store the wastewater produced by the water that was pumped into the reactors daily at the Fukushima nuclear power plant after they were destroyed. This wastewater was the source of Japan's nuclear wastewater problem. Now, the thousand-handed centipede saw these tanks used to store nuclear wastewater in Fukushima. Without difficulty, it flapped its wings several times, and the gusts they created blew all those large tanks storing nuclear wastewater away, spilling them. The Fukushima nuclear power plant was completely trampled and destroyed by the thousand-handed centipede stomps. Although those cores would damage Japan's environment, the thousand-handed centipede did not care much. After all, it thought it could handle any repercussions. This time, Japan's excessive actions triggered the dispatch of the thousand-handed centipede. Cruising chaotically through Japan, the thousand-handed centipede occasionally skimmed low over Japanese cities, causing panic and commotion among the people of Japan. Multiple major cities in Japan erupted into massive panic-induced evacuation waves due to the presence of the thousand-handed centipede. Countless city residents fled with their entire families, all fearing that they, too, would end up like Tokyo. In contrast, the countryside seemed somewhat safer, with its sufficiently low population density drawing less attention from the great centipede sea monster. Meanwhile, flights and ferries out of Japan became impossibly scarce, causing a surge in ticket prices to hundreds of times their typical cost due to the immense demand. The entire country of Japan was thrown into chaos. Citizens fled en masse, taking their families with them. The nation's economy went into a steep depression, already weakened by the destruction of Tokyo, and now further crippled by the actions of the thousand-handed centipede. Property prices in major cities dropped drastically, with no buyers willing to take on the risk. This was similar to the principal seen during a nuclear war, where large cities were always high-value targets, subject to being struck preferentially by enemy nuclear bombs, causing urban property prices to plummet. The thousand-handed centipede soared through the sky, yet the impact it had on Japan was no less devastating than the destruction of Tokyo. Its presence was like a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of the Japanese populace. Nobody knew when it might choose to descend upon their nation again. As the thousand-hand centipede rampaged across Japan, countries around the world had already received the news of Tokyo's sea monster attack, and nations capable of launching satellites redirected them to the Tokyo region. From the satellite view, the vast Tokyo city was engulfed in smoke, its bustling architectural landscape reduced to ruins, with hardly any intact buildings left in the entire city. Seeing this, the leaders of these countries were all shocked, especially at the sight in the Japanese sky of that creature, flapping its wings, roaring with arrogance, adorned with grim pale corpse hands, over 500 meters long, a terrifying thousand-hand centipede, inducing an almost suffocating sensation. Including the beautiful country, their Black Palace leadership was equally shocked. In fact, as early as the attack on Yokosuka, the Black Palace had convened an emergency meeting, but before they could figure out a plan, they received the latest news of the destruction of the Yokosuka military port, followed by the annihilation of Tokyo. In the following days, the Black Palace nearly held meetings several times a day, like now. Professor Olvera, is this sea monster the one you mentioned, which sank the Mitchell and Zhuoliang frigates, the one from the deep-sea island of Mariana Trench? Jesmond looked at the electronic screen hanging in front, which was playing satellite reconnaissance footage of the thousand-hand centipede destroying Tokyo. Modern satellite technology captures images with great precision, so Jesmond could clearly feel how terrifying the centipede sea monster was. Even viewing it only via video, he felt a shudder, not to mention facing it directly. Standing before such a monster, how small humans seemed. Professor Olvera, questioned by Jesmond, was full of excitement. He originally planned to go out to sea 2 days later to track traces of the ancient civilization's deep-sea island. But at this critical moment, he suddenly received an urgent summons from the beautiful country's officials, and then arrived at the meeting room to witness the live broadcast of the centipede sea monster ravaging Tokyo. President Jesmond, after computer comparison, the similarity between them in certain areas is as high as 95.8%. Unless such a terrifying centipede sea monster has a twin or a mating pair, I can quite certainly say this is the sea monster we encountered on the ancient civilization's deep-sea island of Mariana Trench. Professor Olvera's eyes burned with excitement. Although only a glimpse of the sea monster was captured at the Mariana Trench, modern technology is very advanced. Through manual and computer comparisons, numerous matching similarities with this centipede sea monster were found, confirming its exact origin. One is already incredible. If there are two, what do we humans even play at? Jesmond's mouth twitched slightly, not because he intended to belittle himself, but because the centipede sea monster before him was too terrifying. Weapons were largely ineffective, and he even doubted whether the most fearsome human weapon, the nuclear bomb, could kill it. Jesmond thought this way and asked, "What is the military's view? What weapon can harm such a sea monster?" Harmon, the Minister of Defense of the beautiful country, cleared his throat and explained, "Mr. President, we currently know very little about this centipede sea monster. Based on its current display of combat power, ordinary hot weapons are basically entirely ineffective, and this sea monster can treat military ships with tens of thousands of tons of displacement as toys. A body that can bear such strength must possess equally robust defensive capabilities. Otherwise, its muscles and bones would break first. Furthermore, judging from satellite footage, this sea monster can unleash destruction akin to a nuclear bomb. I think even nuclear bombs are probably hard to effectively kill it, at least not with just one or two, but rather a high-yield hydrogen bomb." Harmon's words made the expressions of those present quite unsightly. It's quite challenging to comprehend that even the strongest weapon, the nuclear bomb, might not be able to kill a sea monster. Standing behind Harmon, Navy Colonel Eller, who participated in the exploration of the deep-sea island, also attended the meeting this time. He agreed, "I think so too. I don't know if any of you have seen the Godzilla movie series. In those movies, there are monsters that grow by absorbing nuclear energy, and human nuclear bombs not only fail to kill the monster but also make it evolve, becoming even stronger. Although reality is different from the movies, those sea monsters that appeared in Gashan County had dense nuclear radiation remnants detected in their bodies. Additionally, these sea monsters repeatedly attack Japan, saying they have nothing to do with Japan's Pacific discharge of nuclear wastewater. I find hard to believe. These sea monsters have a deep connection with nuclear radiation. Nuclear weapons are best not used lightly. If, like in the movies, nuclear weapons are ineffective and anger the sea monsters, then the situation. Eller did not continue, just pointed to the current state of Tokyo City captured by satellite on the screen. The implication was obvious. Everyone, have you misunderstood the problem? It's the Japanese who are dying. Why should we fight this centipede sea monster? At this moment, Olvera suddenly interjected, looking expressionless. The discussion makes me feel quite odd. Japan has a population of 130 million. Before all their blood is shed, we have no reason to intervene. Everyone present was taken aback for a moment. Upon closer thought, it actually made sense. Professor Olvera, you're right. We really have no need to clash with this centipede sea monster. It's targeting Japan, so let Japan bear the brunt first. When the monster attacks other countries, that will become a global issue, needing the combined strength of all nations. It's indeed unnecessary for us to be the vanguard this time. Jesmin quickly grasped the idea. Olvera was very correct. These sea monsters emerging from the ocean were clearly headed towards Japan. The beautiful country troops stationed at Yokosuka Military Port were just caught in the crossfire. Somewhat unlucky. So there's really no need for the beautiful country to rush in and act for Japan's sake. Harmon couldn't help but laugh, sarcastically noting, "Fake. It's all the fault of those movie companies, always making films about monsters and aliens attacking Blue Star. In these films, we, the beautiful country, always act as saviors, standing at the forefront against monsters and aliens, which has skewed my thought process. At the sight of monsters, my instinct is to act as the savior." Haha. Makes sense. Blame those damn movie companies for portraying us as so awesome. I didn't even know myself. The aircraft carrier battle groups are meant to counter other nations that challenge our dominant status, like the JECA group, not to fight monsters. What concern is Japan's troubles to the beautiful country? In the Mutual Defense Security Treaty we signed with Japan, the Mutual Defense Operations content states that if Japan is attacked by another country, there's an obligation for joint operations. But this treaty's subjects are limited to other countries and domestic rebellion suppression, which doesn't include monster attacks. We, the beautiful country, really have no obligation or necessity to wade into this mess for Japan. High-level officials of the beautiful country present all spoke up, and after deciding to sacrifice Japan, the atmosphere in the conference room suddenly shifted from the previous gloom to a more relaxed tone. Although Japan is very important to the beautiful country, representing significant interests in the Asia-Pacific region, provoking that centipede sea monster for this reason is a necessary sacrifice the beautiful country can accept. It wasn't until the room calmed down a bit that Olvera continued, suggesting to Jesmin, "President, with the centipede sea monster now appearing in Tokyo, I believe it signifies that the ancient civilization's deep-sea island, which vanished in the Mariana Trench, may have moved to the maritime regions near Japan. I would like to apply for deep-sea submersibles to conduct a large-scale search in and around Japan's sea domain." A deep-sea island. Jesmin squinted. Over the past 2 weeks, they had invested considerable strength in searching the Mariana Trench sea area but found no trace. "I agree to your request. Find that deep-sea island as soon as possible." Jesmin nodded, then suddenly remembered something, ordering, "Didn't we secretly discharge nuclear wastewater around our beautiful country's maritime boundaries before? Or bury nuclear waste barrels? Get someone to dredge all that nuclear waste from the sea immediately." Because of Tokyo's plight, Jesmin certainly didn't want a domestic city to one day suffer a sea monster attack due to nuclear pollution. The explosive news of Tokyo's destruction by the centipede sea monster was widely circulated, creating a sensation worldwide, and was hotly discussed online. Tokyo destroyed, our capital destroyed? Who's making such an outrageous joke? This is an aerial footage of Tokyo right now, spread globally, but it's just you Japanese who still don't believe it. I used to think the Godzilla movies Japan made were fiction. Didn't expect them to actually be documentaries. I originally planned to live in Tokyo this year, but I couldn't find a job there. Those companies didn't hire me. Haha. Now I realize how lucky I am. Thanks for not accepting me. Staying in the countryside saved my life. Oh my God. That centipede sea monster seems even more terrifying than Godzilla. A megacity like Tokyo was destroyed, causing millions of casualties. This monster is too perverse. These sea monsters have always targeted Japan because Japan discharges nuclear wastewater to the ocean. They brought it on themselves. Do you people have no empathy? Those sea monsters are enemies of humanity. They've killed so many fellow humans. Shouldn't you focus on overcoming this ordeal together instead of mocking on the web? Do you even have humanity? I am a Hua country citizen. For me, it's only trying to destroy Japan. What's wrong with that? Why does the monster want to destroy Tokyo? Because it's benevolent, it can't stand you harming the Pacific. The monster was living peacefully in the sea, and you poisoned its home. Is that right? If it doesn't hit you, who should it hit? How did this happen? It's only Tokyo that was destroyed. Japan still has many cities. Centipede Sea Monster Comrade. You must stand up. Insist on tormenting Japan for 100 years unwavering. Sea Monster Comrade, you must win. I plead the country to send troops in time to protect our MVP. Haha. Doesn't Japan have Ultraman? Why don't you call him out? I've been looking forward to Ultraman fighting the monster in 300 rounds. The greatest heroic warrior of our Hua country people. Centipede Sea Monster. Forever great. The online debates continued, and among them, the Hua country people were particularly jubilant about Tokyo's destruction, with even the Jingwa shrine raised. Firecrackers were bought and ignited in many households, celebrating more joyously than during New Year. The destruction of Tokyo shocked countries on Blue Star. This attack wasn't on Gashan County. Japan, as an island country, has limited land area and resources, with its population highly concentrated in the Tokyo metropolitan area. Economically and politically, it is the core of Japan, and as a city icon, Tokyo is widely known globally. Now that Tokyo has been destroyed, resulting in millions of casualties, the economic toll alone is a heavy blow. People in Asian regions were more alarmed, fearing their countries might also suffer sea monster landings, leading to massive increases in coastal military deployments and round-the-clock patrols to prevent following in Tokyo's footsteps. Additionally, those Europe and America countries that had secretly discharged nuclear wastewater into the ocean all without exception stopped such suicidal actions promptly. A large amount of manpower and resources were mobilized to actively seal their nation's nuclear pollution, retrieving nuclear waste previously disposed of into the ocean to cut costs. After all, with Japan as a precedent, everyone was very concerned about sea monsters retaliating due to nuclear wastewater issues, which would be disastrous. Over time, the entire international community focused on the developments in Japan, and countries expressed condolences for Japan's predicament. For instance, the JECA Group, with their spokesperson Liu Yingying, addressed reporters at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs' regular press conference. We have noted the unfortunate event of the sea monster attack that occurred in Tokyo, Japan, resulting in significant casualties. On behalf of the JECA Group, I express deep condolences to the victims and sincere sympathy to the families of the victims, wishing the injured a speedy recovery. Consequently, the first batch of relief supplies from our JECA Group has been airlifted to Japan in hopes they overcome difficulties. It all sounds quite sincere, but only to the extent of oral support. When the so-called relief supplies from the JECA Group arrived in Japan, and the Japanese officials opened them, damn, it was all boxes of paper cranes, the cheap kind mass-produced from Iwu Small Commodities, which infuriated the Japanese officials to the point of cursing loudly. Such useless things were no different from trash for Japan at this time. And it didn't stop there. The JECA Group, controlling the Malacca Strait and Kra Isthmus Canal, ensured many countries' relief supplies and vast purchases from around the world faced numerous difficulties after Tokyo's destruction. The Malacca Strait and Kra Isthmus Canal suddenly encountered failures. Major ports couldn't provide supplies, and ships heading towards Japan were hindered in all sorts of ways. This caused Japan to bounce around in anger, nearly exploding with rage, accusing JECA Group of inhuman actions at the UN Security Council. The Thousand-Hand Centipede has been lurking in Japan for a week, stirring up trouble throughout Japan, causing fear and economic collapse among the Japanese. 2 weeks later, the playful Thousand-Hand Centipede plunged into the sea, vanishing from people's sight. However, even with the departure of the Thousand-Hand Centipede, the series of impacts it caused continued to ferment. The threat of sea monsters has become the focal point of international discussions, where issues such as the origins, number, strength, and danger level of sea monsters are laid before every nation's think tanks, demanding serious attention. Globally, opinions on sea monsters, particularly the Thousand-Hand Centipede that devastated Tokyo and was immune to various hot weapons, are divided between fear and admiration. The Thousand-Hand Centipede, due to its series of destructive actions, has become the absolute superstar on Blue Star, with no other star's popularity able to compare. For Japan, the departure of the Thousand-Hand Centipede allowed the citizens to finally breathe a sigh of relief. Under the command of Prime Minister Shiun Temple Eating, the upper echelons of Japan's leadership announced the lifting of the nationwide curfew, and the country collectively engaged in production and recovery to repair the damage and wounds caused by the sea monster attack. Yet, there are some who don't wish Japan well at this time. On December 25, 2032, a piece of news suddenly swept through the Asia-Pacific region. The JECA Group announced that, to safeguard navigation safety in the Pacific Ocean and prevent sea monsters from attacking ships and causing civilian casualties, a Far East mixed fleet has been specially formed, consisting of the Ilova River, Salween, and Mamberamo, 3 Devourer-class deep-diving cruisers, alongside corresponding destroyers, escort ships, supply ships, amphibious assault ships, and landing ships. As the news spread, the Far East mixed fleet formed by the JECA Group had already begun its journey northward, boldly arriving near Japan's sea domain. The appearance of this Far East fleet immediately caused a global stir. With a displacement of 45,000 tons, a Devourer-class cruiser carried 648 various missiles and torpedoes, boasting extremely powerful combat capabilities. The appearance of 3 Devourer-class deep-diving cruisers formed a fleet strong enough to dominate any ocean on Blue Star, capable of easily wiping out several small countries. The large-scale naval maneuver by the JECA Group is indeed quite striking. The Devourer-class deep-diving cruisers are undoubtedly the flagship weapon of the JECA Group's navy. Even with their vast national strength, only 15 ships in total are maintained, yet now 3 are sent together to form a large fleet, an action bound to raise suspicions. Having dealt with the JECA Group multiple times, Japan sensed something was amiss upon hearing the news. What typical behavior of the JECA Group? Would they really come to ensure navigation safety? It's unlikely they're here to protect Japan, right? Besides, Japan isn't defenseless. The beautiful country hasn't been as proactive as the JECA Group, so it's evident even from a harebrained perspective that the JECA Group has ulterior motives. Under the guise of protection, they might be aiming to exploit the situation. Japan is well aware of its status, and as the beautiful country's top follower, it has always stood in front lines against the JECA Group, even sending troops into Southeast Asia to confront them, though those conflicts have already established deep-seated animosity. Now, weakened by sea monsters, Japan sees the large-scale deployment by the JECA Group as an opportunistic attack. In response, Japan hurriedly contacted their beautiful country ally, asking them to intervene and halt the JECA Group's maritime actions. Indeed, Japan's suspicions were correct. The Far East mixed fleet formed by the JECA Group, after arriving in Japan's sea domain, immediately embarked on a visit to Japan. Osaka Port. Osaka, Japan's second-largest city, an important commercial and industrial hub, is a water and land transportation center with a population exceeding 3 million, boasting the second-highest density next to capital Tokyo. Osaka Port is also one of Japan's largest container ports, playing a crucial role as Japan's marine transportation hub. After the departure of the Thousand-Hand Centipede, Osaka was the first city Japan reopened, offering tremendous incentives to lure Japanese who fled to rural areas back to urban work and life to maintain national operations. Meanwhile, Osaka port never rests, receiving shipments of goods procured globally for Japan. Japan is an island country with scarce resources, reliant heavily on imports for most necessities. With Tokyo's destruction requiring vast resources for reconstruction, Osaka port plays an essential role. Every day, numerous cargo ships arrive here, providing Japan with a continuous flow of supply and replenishment. At this moment, Shimazu Tsubaki, a dock scheduler at Osaka port, was busy at work in uniform. Captain of ship 082, come over to sign. Crane number 9 in B area, prepare for unloading. Freight vehicles will enter D area of the port in half an hour. Don't delay. Holding a walkie-talkie, Shimazu Tsubaki was allocating tasks. He has been working at this dock scheduler position for 15 years. He initially escaped to the countryside following the Tokyo incident. But living in the countryside isn't easy either. Due to the sharp currency depreciation in Japan and soaring prices, the money Shimazu brought was far from enough, and later, even having meals became a problem. Therefore, under the call of the Japanese government, he had no choice but to return to Osaka with his family, as staying in the countryside without land or a job made it impossible for him to live. However, just as Shimazu Tsubaki thought it was going to be another ordinary busy day, he suddenly noticed chaos among the container ships, originally lined up waiting to enter Osaka port, as they retreated quickly. What's the situation? Is it another sea monster attack? Shimazu Tsubaki's face turned pale, and his colleagues around also thought of this. Many had their legs turning to jelly and had already started to make a run for it. It's important to know that the Japanese government had promised that they had set up many early warning devices in the sea. If a sea monster attacks, an alarm will be triggered immediately, instructing them to evacuate. At the same time, as an important port city, Osaka port has been reinforced with 2 self-defense team brigades, with more than 10,000 soldiers stationed there. Very quickly, Shimazu Tsubaki noticed several massive warships appearing in the distant sea. Having worked at the dock for years, Shimazu Tsubaki could immediately distinguish these as warships, not other civilian vessels. The piercing air raid alarm also sounded in Osaka City, accompanying the approach of one warship after another to Osaka port. Especially one central warship, more than 250 meters in length, had 6 large biological tentacles surging on the sea surface, churning the water into waves. This warship, although it was Shimazu Tsubaki's first time seeing it, he was not unfamiliar with it. Throughout Blue Star, only JECA Group possesses this Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser. This cruiser arsenal ship, capable of diving into deep sea and carrying terrifying amounts of missiles, is already known worldwide, recognized by people all over the world. These are all warships from the JECA Group. What are they trying to do? Shimazu Tsubaki's eyes widened. Although he heard JECA Group had some Far East mixed fleet, he thought in his mind that JECA Group's fleet at best would just patrol offshore, showcase their military power, conduct some exercises to demonstrate power. But now, their warships have run to Osaka port. What's the matter? He had not received any prior notice. If warships were to come here, arrangements would surely be needed for command and dispatch. This indicates that JECA Group has arrived uninvited, without any greetings, forcibly barging in. An unfriendly visitor. An unfriendly visitor. Shimazu Tsubaki watched the approaching JECA Group warships, which showed no signs of a friendly visit. Normally, when warships enter port, they, as moving territories, should hoist the flag of the visited country, perform a whistle salute, fly full flags, and send fleet honor guards and bands. But none of these were seen on JECA Group's warships. Those entering Osaka port had all their weapons deployed, as if ready to start a fight at the slightest disagreement. Inexplicably, Shimazu Tsubaki thought of a terrifying guess. Could these JECA Group warships be looking to start a war here? Impossible, absolutely impossible. They have no reason to fight us. Shimazu Tsubaki shook his head immediately. Such matters as warfare are unlike eating and drinking. How could it possibly happen? Especially since Japan has not offended JECA Group recently. As Japan's most important port now, Osaka Port naturally has warships patrolling nearby to protect it from sea monster threats. Patrolling here are 2 Japanese Jingon-class destroyers, Mist Island and Miao Gao, with a standard displacement of 7,250 tons and a crew of 300. 4 Mogami-class escort ships, Kumano, Nengdai, Mikuma, Yashimo. These escort ships have strong anti-submarine capabilities, expected by Japan to scout for sea monsters attempting underwater ambushes, holding great hopes. To the JECA Group fleet ahead, this is Japanese territorial waters. You have not obtained entry permission. Leave immediately, or we will take all necessary countermeasures. On the Mist Island destroyer, Captain Tianai Sherwu Lang raised his binoculars, looking at the massive fleet opposite, his eyebrows furrowed together. At this moment, they had already warned the JECA Group fleet via radio communication. What exactly are these guys doing here? Tianai Sherwu Lang felt a sense of panic and unease. The arrival of JECA Group's warships made him smell the scent of danger. Send a telegram to the country. Report the situation here. I need reinforcements. Tianai Sherwu Lang spoke in a deep voice. He didn't know why JECA Group came, but with such a display, it did not seem like a visit for friendship. Yes. The lieutenant nodded, immediately ordering the signalman to send the situation back to the upper echelons in the country. Meanwhile, heading towards Osaka Port was part of the Far East fleet of the JECA Group. The Ilova deep submarine cruiser led the way. Surrounding it were 4 destroyers, 6 escort ships, 1 comprehensive supply ship, 1 amphibious assault ship, 8 large tank landing ships, and 12 medium landing ships. At this time, in the command room of the Ilova deep submarine cruiser, Captain Tu Fingpu looked expressionlessly at the Japanese warships blocking the road ahead, saying indifferently, "Reply to these Japanese warships. Let them make way and open the door. We come for free trade." The lieutenant nodded quickly, conveying Tu Fingpu's words without alteration to the Japanese warships opposite. When the Japanese Mist Island destroyer received this message, many had unpleasant expressions. What free trade? We Japan have not reached any trade agreements with JECA Group. I repeat once more, we Japan do not welcome you. You have invaded our territorial waters. Leave our territorial waters immediately. Tianai Sherwu Lang snorted coldly, feeling insulted by such words from the JECA Group. What does the JECA Group take us Japan for? This is not the old colonial times, where one's goods could be forcibly exported with powerful ships and cannons. The sea monster incident occurring in Japan. Sea monsters are the wealth of all humanity. You have no rights for any exclusive behavior. We demand to be stationed here. The benefits of sea monsters need to be shared. Tu Fingpu's lip curved slightly, instructing the signalman to convey this message via radio to the opposite side. Bastard! Hearing these words, Tianai Sherwu Lang couldn't help but have his eyes turn red in anger. The sea monsters are now Japan's most untouchable sore spot. Tokyo was completely destroyed by sea monsters, and now JECA Group is deliberately bringing this up, clearly intending to pour salt into Japan's wound. Tianai Sherwu Lang gritted his teeth, issuing the order, "Final warning. According to the United Ocean Law Treaty, you entered our territorial waters without our approval. We have the right to take lawful measures." Meanwhile, on the opposite, the Ilova River, Tu Fingpu said indifferently, "Transmit the order. Japanese vessels have unauthorized provocations attacking our warships. We shall resolutely defend ourselves and retaliate. All ships, open fire, sink the enemy ships." The JECA Group warships, well prepared, immediately executed this order with messages passed down layer by layer. In the next moment, missile launch hatches on the Ilova River opened one after another, and white swordfish hypersonic anti-ship missiles ignited, darting out towards the Japanese warships ahead. Warning! Warning! Missile strike incoming! On Mist Island, seeing this scene, Tianai Sherwu Lang's heart tightened as if about to leap out of his chest, with an expression of disbelief. Despite knowing JECA Group came with ill intentions, he never expected JECA Group would suddenly launch an attack like this. Don't they care about international law and public opinion at all? Fight back. Immediately fight back. Intercept those missiles. In his shock, Tianai Sherwu Lang shouted crazily, not forgetting his duty, organizing the warships to counterattack. On the Japanese warships, missiles started to launch, but the rate and quantity of launches could not match that of the Ilovas. Now, in naval warfare, what is really being fought is information warfare. Spotting the enemy first and destroying the enemy first. Whoever first discovers the enemy in the vast ocean holds the initiative and strategic advantage. But now, both sides' warships are within attack range and have spotted each other. Now it is a matter of whose attacks are sharper and whose defenses are stronger. JECA Group strikes first, with those swordfish anti-ship missiles like daggers suddenly drawn by an assassin. Although Japan's warships have already heightened their alertness, the warning response distance given to them is too short. Coupled with the supersonic maneuverability of the swordfish anti-ship missiles, the air defense missiles on the Japanese warship struggle to effectively defend. Only the close-in weapon system on the warships can spray a barrage. A swordfish anti-ship missile flies close to the sea, breaking through Japan's barrage blockade and directly plunges into the midsection of the Miao-Gao destroyer. When the 900-kilogram warhead explosively detonates, the Miao-Gao destroyer shakes several times, and the Japanese Navy soldiers on board stagger, hitting their heads and bleeding. The command tower positioned in the central area of Miao-Gao, along with the swordfish anti-ship missiles explosion, turns steel into twisted metal. A fierce explosion and dense smoke rise tens of meters high. From afar, the Miao-Gao looks like an apple bitten hard in the middle. The command tower has vanished, the midsection of the ship blooms like a horn, with radar, cockpit, and combat command center inside all destroyed. Having lost its radar, Miao-Gao becomes blind and deaf. Even if there are still missiles and close-in weapon systems on board, they can no longer defend against the incoming swordfish anti-ship missiles. Bang! 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 3 more swordfish anti-ship missiles hit the Miao-Gao destroyer in succession. For a destroyer with only 7,000 tons of displacement, this is an unbearable weight of life. The entire destroyer, amidst the sound of steel disintegration, has huge gaps blown out of it. Seawater crazily floods in, visibly sinking into the seawater. The Japanese Navy soldiers inside are either killed on the spot or blocked in the cabin by the incoming seawater, sinking with the ship into the seabed, with very few able to jump into the sea to escape. The sinking of Miao-Gao is just the beginning, as more missiles start to rain down. As JECA Group's Navy ace, the Devourer-class cruiser carries enough missiles to match 10 destroyers. Furthermore, there are other warships within JECA Group's fleet. At this moment, numerous warships fire simultaneously, missiles pouring down like rain. Japan's warships, in the face of such a number of missiles, become especially powerless. The number of incoming missiles has already exceeded their radar's limit for capturing and locking. In the face of such a number of missiles, even the beautiful country's carrier combat group wouldn't dare claim a complete defense, let alone Japan's few destroyers and escort ships. After the sinking of Miao-Gao, several other Japanese warships soon followed in its footsteps. On the Kumano-class frigate, its bow was hit by a Flying Fish subsonic missile. Although the Flying Fish is merely a subsonic missile, relatively cheap and widely deployed on JECA Group's warships. This Flying Fish missile was launched by a JECA Group destroyer. Don't underestimate its power just because the Flying Fish anti-ship missile is cheap. Flying in at 0.8 Mach, the Flying Fish anti-ship missile pierces into Kumano's bow, and the warhead of several hundred kilograms explosively goes off instantly, blowing off the bow of Kumano with seawater flooding in wildly. A small-sized escort ship is very hard to withstand the destructive power of an anti-ship missile. Just one hit is enough to make Kumano top-heavy. The stern lifted high out of the water, the propellers spinning in vain, bow straight down into the sea, sinking faster than Miao-Gao. Following closely are the Nengdai, Mikuma, and Yashimo. These 3 escort ships also did not escape the fate of sinking. Nengdai was hit by a swordfish anti-ship missile, losing combat effectiveness on the spot, and then being finished off by JECA Group with a rocket torpedo, directly sinking it. Mikuma was simultaneously hit by several anti-ship missiles. The ammunition depot exploded, the steel warship blossoming spectacular fireworks at sea, the explosive firelight and dense smoke soaring skyward, visible clearly even 10 kilometers away. Yashimo was blown open by anti-ship missiles, seawater flooding and massively causing the ship to lose balance and capsize. The whole ship like a dead fish turned belly up, the hull inverted on the sea surface, exposing the severely rusted ship bottom. Japan, due to its positioning issues, to cooperate with the beautiful country's Navy operations, its escort ships are very skilled in anti-submarine and anti-torpedo, claiming to be the world's best. Because the beautiful country wasn't counting on Japan's warships to play much of a role in direct naval battle matchups. Influenced by this shipbuilding line of thinking, Japan's warships are very biased, being strong in underwater anti-submarine operations. But in regular naval duels, this is their shortcoming. Especially when the opponent is the Arsenal cruiser, which makes even the beautiful country's carrier battle group tremble, their outcome is destined to be tragic. This has led to the fact that just as the war started, 5 out of the 6 Japanese warships sank one after another. And the anti-ship missiles they desperately fired before their demise, just as they approached Ilova, were blown up in mid-air by the dense air defense fire here. These incoming missiles, Ilova locked onto them with advanced large biological radar, and then launched close-range air defense missiles to intercept them mid-air. When the anti-ship missiles break through and approach further, the 8 living tentacles of the Ilova River cruiser protrude from the sea surface, spraying highly corrosive acid and biological spider webs from the ends. These missiles, being extremely precise, lose their target-locking capability instantly once their delicate components are corroded or entangled by the webs, plunging into the sea and causing a lonely explosion. These missiles do not even break through to the close-in weapon systems of the Ilova River, where 8 30mm cannons await them. The fierce firepower turns the Ilova River into a hedgehog spitting tongues of fire, creating a firepower net that effectively protects the rest of the fleet, giving a tremendous sense of security. General. On the other side, in the Japan fleet, amidst anxious shouts, Tianai Sherwu Lang hazily opens his eyes, feeling a sharp pain on his forehead, and touches his hand to find it covered with blood. What is this? Tianai Sherwu Lang looks at his adjutant, who is also covered in blood with a smoke-blackened face, and the cluttered surroundings, recalling the events before he lost consciousness. He was engaged in a confrontation with the Jekka Group's warships at sea. Then the Mist Island was hit by an anti-ship missile and he lost consciousness. Struggling to his feet, Tianai Sherwu Lang ignores the pain, struggling to look towards the sea surface. He sees fierce flames and thick smoke rising from the Mist Island, with the damage control team urgently trying repairs, but the fire is too intense to make any difference. The hull has already suffered a severe list to the left due to water ingress and the fire. It's over. Tianai Sherwu Lang observes the unharmed Jekka Group fleet, then glances again at the sea surface where Japan's warships either have already sunk or are sinking, leaving Mist Island as the only survivor in this sea area. It is Tianai Sherwu Lang's first encounter with a Jekka Group warship, and now he finally understands why the beautiful country is wary of the Jekka Group's navy. Such a terrifying cruiser, it's only when it truly engages in battle that you realize its terrifying firepower. After a single exchange, they are utterly defeated. General, the Mist Island is severely flooded, the fire is fierce, we've lost control over the balance with water injection. The ship speed has dropped to 12 knots, Mist Island is failing, you need to make a decision quickly. The adjutant shouts anxiously, regardless if it's to surrender or to announce abandoning ship and evacuate. It requires the ship-length Tianai Sherwu Lang to issue an order. Tianai Sherwu Lang's lips quiver, gritting his teeth. Surrender. Surrender to the Jekka Group. In present times, Japan's armed forces, whether Navy, Air Force, or Army, rarely possess the desperate courage of the past. If it were Tianai Sherwu Lang's ancestors, they'd likely choose to go down with the ship rather than surrender. The adjutant is delighted, just about to send a radio message, but then the Mist Island quakes with a tremendous boom. Tianai Sherwu Lang and the adjutant stare out from the command room to find the rear of Mist Island missing, a place struck by an anti-ship missile, with propellers blasted above the sea surface. The entire warship immediately loses power, left motionless on the sea surface, becoming a sitting duck. Crawling up with difficulty from the explosive shock, Tianai Sherwu Lang, in sheer panic, screams, "Send the surrender telegram. Hurry!" The adjutant rushes over to the communications console to send surrender information to the Jekka Group, but the delay has made it too late. As many as 8 anti-ship missiles come skimming over the sea in succession, With Mist Island losing power, it can't evade or execute maneuvers, and the defense systems on board, due to severe flooding and raging fire, cannot defend. In an instant, Mist Island destroyer, engulfed by 8 anti-ship missiles in successive hits, resembles a volcano's mouth in eruption, with flames spreading across the hull, steel shards flying, and human bodies shredded into fragments. Tianai Sherwu Lang feels heat beneath his feet, and the explosions from the anti-ship missiles tear him to pieces. In a series of violent explosions, Mist Island shatters into sections, dismantled by the anti-ship missiles, bypassing the need for ship dismantling procedures, vanishing with the explosions from the sea's surface. No one survives, all buried in the cold ocean. Japan's 6 warships are all sunk by the JECA Group's fleet. Their only contribution was to deplete some of the JECA Group fleet's ammunition supplies. Many civilian vessels are in the nearby sea area, with the crew aboard petrified. In such a short time, Japan's warships have all sunk. Everyone realizes a major event occurred here today, turning them all into witnesses to history. On the Ilova River cruiser, Tu Fengpu stands with arms crossed. As the culprit behind the tragedy that sunk 6 warships, his expression remains calm. This was part of their pre-planned strategy. Prior to coming over, he had an audience with the Supreme Leader. His arrival, including the commencement of war, was all authorized and permitted by the Supreme Leader. Transmit the order. The fleet switches to ground support, striking the city's military camps and facilities, keeping an alert for anti-air threats, and covering the ground troops landing. At Tu Fengpu's command, the fleet reopens the missile launch hatches. However, this time what they are launching are all ground attack cruise missiles. The Ilova River alone fires dozens of cruise missiles. These missiles cross over the sea and pier, penetrating Osaka City, homing in on the stationed Japan troops' locations according to satellite guidance. The missile bombings awake Osaka City, many Japanese utterly bewildered, assuming a sea monster is attacking, spreading panic all over the city. Meanwhile, the landing crafts behind the JECA Group fleet accelerate, moving towards Osaka Port. At Osaka Port Pier, Shimazu Tsubaki, having witnessed this entire maritime conflict, is drenched in sweat, his back soaked through. He has seen his country's warships sinking and vanishing, and witnessed JECA Group flaunting their might, not only sinking his country's warships but also launching missiles towards Osaka City, whose purpose is unmistakably clear. Due to overwhelming fear, Shimazu Tsubaki's mind goes blank, standing dazed without thinking to run away. When he regains his senses, the JECA Group's landing ships have already docked ashore. Bang! A large JECA Group tank landing ship docks right before Shimazu Tsubaki. With the hydraulic tailgate opening, it turns into a ramp, and sounds of engines roaring come from the internal vehicle deck and dock compartment, with each metal long leg appearing into view. Those are Spider main battle mechas standing 12 meters in height, walking down from the deck's tailgate, stepping onto Osaka Port's dock ground. On the Spider main battle mechas sit individual silver-white armored, 3-meter-tall genetic warriors. In the air, combat helicopters take off from the deck, their rotors whip up winds howling, beneath swing weapon pods shimmering combatively with rockets. Shimazu Tsubaki stands petrified like a wooden figure, too afraid to move, watching the steel army march past him, advancing mightily into Osaka Castle. "Hey, come and work!" A shout suddenly comes, as a JECA Group logistician approaches, pointing to the trucks and fuel trucks coming off the landing ship. Noticing Shimazu Tsubaki wearing a coordinator's uniform, immediately directing him to coordinate. Stunned for several seconds, noticing the JECA Group logistician's impatient look, with the opponent's hand moving to their waistband's gun holster, Shimazu Tsubaki snaps to attention, revealing an unusually ingratiating expression. "Hey, follow me. I know the way. I'm most familiar with Osaka." Seeing Shimazu Tsubaki's compliance, the logistician contentedly pats his shoulder. "Yash, work well. Strive to be a good citizen." Yes, I will serve well." Shimazu Tsubaki hastily pats his chest, assuring no problem. He's most capable at being a guide collaborator. Under the muzzle of the JECA Group, there are many Japanese like Shimazu Tsubaki who offer their cooperation. Crying out their repentance for their sins, They pledge wholeheartedly to support the JECA Group's soldiers upon their arrival, eager to prove their loyalty in any way possible. Inside Osaka City, the JECA Group's troops marched into the city with great momentum. There weren't many Japanese in the city, and many were still hiding in the countryside, afraid to return. Nevertheless, Osaka Castle housed a population of millions. When the JECA Group entered Osaka City, the expected resistance was pathetically weak. Originally, Japan had deployed around 10,000 self-defense force soldiers within Osaka City. These soldiers were meant to protect Osaka City from another sea monster landing and to guard this important city from attacks. Additionally, Japan actively recruited militia from the city, picking some strong and young individuals from the populace. The equipment of these militia was very rudimentary, consisting mainly of light weapons, meant to supplement the insufficient numbers of the self-defense forces. After all, with just over 300,000 Japan self-defense force members, including only tens of thousands in the army, and having suffered huge losses from sea monster attacks, it was far from enough to protect over 100 million citizens. Recruitment from civilians was necessary. However, the sea monster landing that Japan was preparing for never came. Instead, the JECA Group's fleet arrived in Osaka City. After the 6 warships from Japan on the sea were dealt with, the Japan Army Self-Defense Force also faced missile strikes launched by the JECA Group from the sea. Cruise missiles penetrated the military camps deployed by Japan in Osaka City. The explosions and loud blasts shook the entire city. Many Japanese self-defense force soldiers didn't understand what had happened and were blown to pieces by the missiles before they knew it, their unit formations disrupted by the bombardment. Most of the Japan self-defense force fell into chaos and struggled to mount any effective counterattack. Occasionally, some managed to form defensive lines, but what they faced was the most elite main battle mecha units of the JECA Group. Hurry! Get the barbed wire up. Machine gun points, get all the ammunition ready. Keep reinforcing this barricade. JECA Group soldiers are almost here. In a major district entry point in Osaka City, a Japanese battalion-level unit was setting up defenses. They belonged to the Infantry Battalion of the Japan Self-Defense Forces 9th Division. Due to being out for drills, they were not in the barracks and avoided the missile strike. Then they received the order from superiors to defend Osaka City to the death. But a battalion-level unit of several hundred personnel was far too small. These Japan Army troops quickly gathered the Osaka City militia to assist in the defense. The number of these militia was 10 times that of the self-defense forces, reaching several thousand. Using the advantageous urban environment, they planned to engage the JECA Group in street warfare. Yet, despite their numbers, most of these Japanese soldiers had never been on the battlefield, not even mentioning the militia. Many had held a gun for merely 10 days, and even the Japan Army lacked practical combat experience. What they had to face, however, was the most elite mecha units in Blue Star's army. Bang! 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 Accompanied by heavy footsteps, in the distance, at the end of the horizon, a mechanical force emerged. It was a team of 6 Spider main battle mechas, carrying some genetic warriors and super soldiers. The Spider main battle mechas, weighing over 100 tons, slightly raised their barrels, and the 203mm main guns opened fire intensely from miles away. Boom! 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 Hundreds of kilograms of high-explosive bombs landed in Osaka City, immediately shattering the steel-reinforced concrete. Human limbs flying everywhere, flesh and organs scattered across the ground. Humans were as fragile as scarecrows in the face of such heavy artillery, torn apart in an instant. The Japanese self-defense force was bewildered by the bombardment. Many had not reacted before suffering a round of heavy artillery, turning pale at the sight of their comrades' tragic deaths. The Osaka City militia trembled even more, many crouching in the defensive zone, terrified to raise their heads despite self-defense force soldiers' calls. The JECA Group Spider main battle mechas bombarded several rounds, reducing the Japanese soldiers' defensive zones to rubble, then continued to advance. At a distance of a few hundred meters, the genetic warriors aboard the Spider main battle mechas jumped off, moving with the Spider main battle mechas into the defensive zones set up by Japan. Even though there were only 6 Spider main battle mechas, the firepower they brought absolutely crushed Japan's side, whether the 203mm main gun, or the 30mm, 20mm, and 12.7mm machine guns. They were super weapons to infantry. Japanese soldiers hid behind building cover, but these were useless against the mecha units. In a tall building, around 50 Japanese soldiers hid, most being militia. One of them fired a rocket which, although it didn't breach the Spider main battle mecha, attracted its attention. As the Spider main battle mecha turned its gun, a 203mm shell roared out, instantly pouring into the building. The terrifying explosion violently shook the building, flames and debris spewing from the windows, collapsing half of the structure. In artillery regiments, the 203mm caliber is unrelenting in demolishing buildings, and these high-rise buildings in Osaka City were no military fortresses, unable to withstand such direct heavy artillery hits. With just one shell, more than half of the Japanese soldiers hiding in the building were killed or injured. Subsequently, the multiple machine guns of the Spider main battle mecha targeted the shattered high-rise. The 20mm and 30mm machine guns, mixed with tracers, continuously raked the scene. Even just a 20mm machine gun is not something ordinary reinforced concrete can withstand. The machine gun shells can punch massive holes in it, and the Japanese soldiers hiding inside naturally could not escape their doom, with bodies shattered by the machine guns. The entire high-rise was engulfed in dust under the machine gun fire, with concrete debris exploding in all directions, accompanied by the screams and pleas of Japanese soldiers, making the whole building riddled with holes before finally collapsing completely. Spider main battle mechas, as heavy vehicles, can exert immense combat effectiveness on urban battlefields, especially when they are covered by genetic warriors. Genetic warriors wielding various heavy weapons are elusive in the city, and even if the Japanese soldiers want to launch a sneak attack from a blind spot of the Spider main battle mechas, they have to see if the genetic warriors agree to it. Most of the Japanese soldiers never even saw the Spider main battle mechas and were directly massacred by the genetic warriors. 6 Spider main battle mechas, alongside 12 genetic warriors and 24 super soldiers, completely collapsed the defense force of thousands from Japan. Especially the militia recruited by Osaka City, who fled their bunkers, raised their hands high, and knelt to the soldiers of the Jeka group, begging for mercy. A small advance force of the Jeka group cleared the only defensive line Japan had. Following that, the main forces of the Jeka group entered Osaka City unimpeded, with Japanese troops surrendering wherever they went. Of course, those called troops were actually just Osaka City militia, many of whom were ordinary people just a dozen days ago. Seeing the streets lined with Spider main battle mechas, genetic warriors towering 3 meters high in biological armors, helicopters roaring overhead, and the vast ships of the Jeka group at sea, these Osaka City militias were astute. They completely abandoned unavailing resistance and instead organized the civilians of Japan in Osaka City, forcing them onto the streets to welcome the heavenly soldiers and generals of the Jeka group, even arranging a group of Japanese schoolchildren to wave the South Alliance flags and greet the Jeka group's entering troops with smiles. To avoid being attacked by the Jeka group, many of them worked overnight to draw the South Alliance flag belonging to the Jeka group, handing over letters of surrender and allegiance, expressing their willingness to act as vanguards for the Jeka group and properly manage those unruly citizens of Osaka City. Moreover, to show their sincerity, these Osaka City militias actively cooperated with the Jeka group's operations, helping maintain order in Osaka City, giving up the best houses and hotels for Jeka group soldiers, finding the prettiest girls to care for their everyday needs, and even capturing so-called cooking immortals, roasting immortals, ramen immortals from various parts of Osaka City to provide the best meals for Jeka group soldiers. It must be said, in this regard, Osaka City is even more perceptive than many countries conquered by the Jeka group. This may also relate to the tradition of Osaka, where during past wartime eras, the Osaka division was famous for preferring business over fighting. Now, after times have changed, the descendants of the Osaka division have still inherited their ancestors' will. Facing the invincible Jeka group, they kneel completely without delay, fearing to displease the heavenly soldiers of the Jeka group. Of course, there are also those in Osaka City opposing the Jeka group, such as Osaka City's Agricultural Association. The Agricultural Association of Japan is a very special organization because of Japan's own limited farming area. To protect its agriculture, Japan rarely imports external agricultural products, leading the Agricultural Association to hold great power. They have exclusive selling and buying privileges over agricultural products, control import regulations, monopolize pricing, creating many high-priced fruits and grains. Osaka City's Agricultural Association resisted the arrival of the JECA Group, fearing that they would force Japan to import agricultural products from the JECA Group, risking their high-priced agricultural products not selling. They resisted this strongly. After all, the JECA Group entered Osaka City under the guise of free trade, making them naturally worry. But the unseasonable attitude of Osaka City's Agricultural Association requires no intervention from the JECA Group itself. There are over 30,000 militia in Osaka City, now incorporated by the JECA Group, given new titles and called the Osaka City Security Army, serving the JECA Group. Moreover, since the South Alliance Army flag of the JECA Group is yellow, they honor the JECA Group's forces as the Imperial Army. The actual commander of Osaka City Security Army, Araki Kenichi, led a large number of security soldiers and rapidly surrounded the headquarters of the Agricultural Association. Araki Kenichi was originally the militia leader. Having surrendered early to the JECA Group and ingratiated flattery, he was granted this role. What do you want to do? Chairman Tsuji Taisher of Osaka City's Agricultural Association struggled, with fear in his eyes, as he was dragged from inside the building. He didn't expect revenge from the JECA Group to come so quickly. Barely after protesting, someone was already at his door. Araki Kenichi approached Tsuji Taisher, and with a cold laugh, said, "The Emperor's army asked me to deliver a message. Osaka City does not welcome any rebels. If you want to live here, either be a decent citizen or—" Araki Kenichi drew his katana from his waist, its gleaming blade glaring in the light, making Tsuji Taisher feel particularly dazzled, with a chill covering his neck. Or, become a corpse. Reaching out to pat Tsuji Taisher's face, Araki Kenichi glanced at him and the other members of the Agricultural Association behind him, all of whom were trembling with fright. You are traitors." Tsuji Taisher's face turned livid. Although he was the chairman of Osaka City's Agricultural Association, he was not a native, so he particularly despised Araki Kenichi's behavior of surrendering early to become the JECA Group's lackey. "Traitor!" Araki Kenichi sneered, annoyed by others calling him this. He didn't want it this way. Had he not been clever to surrender early, he would have been a corpse already. According to the JECA Group, this is called eating food with Wei Junjia. Isn't that so? You have betrayed our country and the noble Yamato. Tsuji Taisher gritted his teeth, indicating that he refused to compromise with Araki Kenichi. "I see you won't shed tears until the coffin is right before you. The JECA Group only came to our country for free trade to help us develop, but you deliberately slander the JECA Group. Fine, I reckon you're a spy sent by the Japanese government. You too, seize him." Araki Kenichi's face turned sour, ordering 2 security soldiers to hold Tsuji Taisher tightly, forcing him to kneel, then raising his katana. "No, how dare you? My uncle is the chairman of the Agricultural Association. My father is a Nagoya City Council member. You can't kill me." Tsuji Taisher screamed wildly, realizing from Araki Kenichi's actions that he intended to do the real thing. "Humph, fool, no matter what position you hold, so what? I'm now under JECA Group management. Who do you think you are?" Araki Kenichi sneered, ignoring Tsuji Taisher's dying struggles, forcefully swinging the blade down. Blood splattered, neck split open. Araki Kenichi made several consecutive strokes, smoothly beheading the person opposing the JECA Group. The remaining members of the Agricultural Association were stunned, watching Araki Kenichi, who showed no procedure, brutally killing Tsuji Taisher on the spot. "Deal with the others the same way." Araki Kenichi glanced at the others, issuing a cold order. He needed to strike fear into them, showing the JECA Group his capability, a way to solidify his position. Other security soldiers raised their rifles and turned the senior members of Osaka City Agricultural Association into Swiss cheese under their desperate gazes. Breaking news. The JECA Group has sunk 6 warships, including Japan's Mist Island, and has now occupied the entirety of Osaka City. It is expected that the JECA Group will possibly undertake a larger-scale military action next. After suffering the ravages of sea monster attacks, Japan now faces another terrifying enemy. The JECA Group claims that the reason for the sea monster attacks is Japan's discharge of nuclear waste. To prevent the sea monsters from affecting more countries, they have landed in Japan to halt Japan's continued nuclear waste pollution and prevent them from becoming the world's sinners. Following Thai country, another nation becomes a feast for the JECA Group. They are like an insatiable dragon, and sooner or later, the entire world will be plunged into war and death due to the JECA Group's existence. As expected, the JECA Group's Far East Mixed Fleet suddenly launched an offensive outside Osaka City, sinking Japanese warships and occupying Japan's second-largest city. This heavyweight news, after media coverage, caused a massive global shock. The sinking of 2 Japanese destroyers and 4 escort ships, along with the occupation of Osaka City by the JECA Group, would be considered an act of war in any country. Japan has been the global focus for a while, first being breached by sea monsters in Gashan County with heavy casualties, followed by Tokyo being nearly destroyed by the centipede sea monster with millions of casualties. Now, the sudden military action by the JECA Group is like delivering a rising dragon fist to a crippled patient, leaving the Japanese government bewildered and engulfed in anger. Japan is furious. The entire nation is outraged by the JECA Group's actions of hitting someone when they're down. Consequently, Japan's leadership decisively called upon their beautiful country, Father, for help to intervene. Beautiful country's response is intriguingly ambiguous. The military bases deployed on Japan's soil have all strengthened their alert levels, and soldiers have entered a state of combat readiness. Beautiful country's warships also began approaching Japan's sea domain, and the Air Force at the Pacific Ocean's island military bases conducted daily and nightly patrols, reaching the highest state of combat readiness. However, despite beautiful country's mobilization, it hesitates to declare war on the JECA Group immediately. It's understandable since the JECA Group is not just any small nation. With a population of 600 million, formidable weaponry, and nuclear capabilities, its military strength is evident for all. Japan may be beautiful country's most important ally, but it's not the mainland. To be drawn into war over a foster son is a topic of fierce debate within beautiful country, without a conclusion. Beautiful country worries about being dragged into a war with the JECA Group, where the outcome is uncertain. If the war escalates, regardless of the outcome, beautiful country's hegemonic status could be greatly threatened. Since beautiful country has more than one enemy, and war consumes national strength, other powerful countries would only be delighted if beautiful country enters the fray. Therefore, in response to Japan's plea for help, beautiful country remains vague. President Jesman issued a statement saying, "The JECA Group must immediately cease its military actions in Japan. Japan is our closest ally, and your actions are provoking the great beautiful country, which we will not tolerate." However, despite the verbal bravado, beautiful country only escalated the rhetoric against the JECA Group without actual military intervention. The JECA Group's entry into Japan is for the peace and security of the future of the world. Sea monsters are a threat to all humanity. Japan cannot cope with such a severe global crisis. As members maintaining global peace and order, the JECA Group has the capability and obligation to use its biological science to handle the sea monster crisis and protect the safety of people worldwide. The JECA Group once again calls for Japan to open its coastal cities to the JECA Group at an early date, which is your responsibility and duty as a member of the Blue Star family. However, Japan has failed to recognize the good intentions. When the JECA Group's fleet paid a friendly visit and offered help, it was met with blatant attacks on our warships. Such actions are disheartening, and hence we are forced to defend ourselves. Some of the casualties and errors are entirely the responsibility of the Japanese government. The JECA Group also quickly issued a statement, adopting a posture of wanting to be the world's policeman, effectively taking the path of beautiful country and leaving it with no options. Countries around the globe, especially in Europe and America, condemned the JECA Group, but it stopped at mere condemnation. Ultimately, this world is one of the strong prey on the weak. If even Beautiful Country hasn't intervened, they would naturally have little reason to stick their necks out, and besides, they can't defeat the Jekka Group. The Jekka Group and Beautiful Country engaged in a war of words over the internet, with Beautiful Country accusing the Jekka Group of being greedily coveting others' lands and being shameless. The Jekka Group retorted, "If you, Beautiful Country, can station troops in Japan, why can't we, the Jekka Group?" The Jekka Group even has some moral high ground since Japan once sent soldiers to Southeast Asia and participated in wars against the Jekka Group in the past. Now that the Jekka Group has risen, what was once permissible for them should also be permissible for us when we launch attacks against Japan. Crying foul now is hypocritical. Such double standards shouldn't exist in this world. Beautiful Country began actively deploying troops in Japan, while the Jekka Group was also relentless, with more and more forces landing in Osaka City and occupying surrounding areas and counties. The Jekka Group and the Beautiful Country are in direct opposition, with Japan being the only one hurt. Japan, on one hand, needs to cope with the military threat from the Jekka Group, while also supplying logistics for Beautiful Country's forces, recruiting soldiers to expand its military. Added to this, Japan's resources are already strained due to prior devastation from sea monsters, making their days even harder, constantly complaining to the Beautiful Country. "Japan, Beautiful Country Daddy, I am your eldest son. The Jekka Group bully is picking on me, you must avenge me. Beautiful Country, be good, son, your father is busy right now, next time for sure." This is the current state between Japan and Beautiful Country, with Japan desperately trying to get Beautiful Country to intervene and help drive away the dangerous element Jekka Group. However, Beautiful Country is reluctant to get embroiled in a conflict with the Jekka Group for Japan's sake. The Jekka Group and Beautiful Country use Japan as their playing field, conducting mutual military deployments here. Amidst friction, they maintain restraint, creating a very subtle atmosphere of mutual agreement. But those with insight noticed that aside from military deployments, a large amount of scientific equipment and many experts were sent to Osaka City by the Jekka Group. At the same time, the Jekka Group ordered the South Alliance to dispatch one research ship after another to the North Pacific, complementing the Jekka Group's Far East mixed fleet by scattering and running around in the sea, seemingly genuinely conducting research. Other countries are puzzled, but seeing the Jekka Group stance, Beautiful Country is involuntarily shocked. Other countries may have also sent out research ships and teams to investigate sea monsters, but their numbers are nothing as exaggerated as the Jekka Group's. Now only 2 countries have put their entire national efforts into the Pacific, dispatching research ships to search systematically. One is Beautiful Country, and the other is Jekka Group. Beautiful Country is searching for the suspected super-ancient civilization's deep-sea island. So is the Jekka Group's behavior for the same purpose? North Pacific, sea area near Japan Hokkaido. 2 research ships are working in these waters, both continuously deploying information buoys and various detection devices into the sea. On the research ship flying the Beautiful Country flag, top marine creature expert Professor Olvera had an odd expression, pointing at the sea surface on the left, clicking his tongue. "That's Jekka Group's research ship, isn't it? Over there, a research ship flying the flag of the Jekka Group was of comparable size to Beautiful Country's vessel. Both research ships were flanked by naval ships, each watching the other across the sea. The close distance allowed them to see shadows of people on board both ships. Having been the discoverer of the super-ancient deep-sea island, Professor Olvera had left the Black Palace to continue searching for the vanished deep-sea island in the Pacific. Now, here they were, near Japan Hokkaido, thinking perhaps the deep-sea island that produced the centipede sea monster causing Tokyo's destruction might have arrived at Japan's coastal sea area. Those indeed belong to the Jekka Group. They seem to be searching the sea area for something significant. Maybe they know the secret of the super-ancient deep-sea island. Otherwise, their investment costs would be too high. Colonel Eller stood beside Professor Olvera, observing the actions of the Jekka Group's research ship and the escort ship flying the Jekka Group flag following it. That's possible, or maybe they're simply searching for deep-sea sea monsters. The Jekka Group can build deep-diving 1,000-meter cruise arsenal ships, showing promising achievements in deep-sea exploration and understanding. Professor Olvera watched the Jekka Group's research ship, feeling inexplicably anxious. If the Jekka Group really found the super-ancient deep-sea island and acquired it first, it wouldn't be good news for him. Colonel Eller was about to speak when suddenly a message came from the escort ship accompanying their research ship. After the deputy reported it, his complexion changed slightly. What happened? Professor Olvera noticed Eller's expression and asked. A Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser from the Jekka Group has appeared in the nearby sea area, moving towards us. Colonel Eller took a deep breath, his eyes heavy. Although there was no war between the countries now, encountering Jekka Group's ace on the sea was never good news. Why did it suddenly come here? Didn't the satellite detect it earlier? Professor Olvera was stunned, wondering why such an ace ship would come here alone instead of on a mission. That kind of deep-diving cruiser can submerge underwater, and satellites can't continuously track it. Colonel Eller shook his head and turned to the deputy. Quickly report our situation to the Asia-Pacific Naval Command, requesting satellite surveillance. After 10 minutes, on the distant sea surface, a giant warship entered their view. It was indeed a Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser from the Jekka Group. In front of this Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser, Beautiful Country's escort ship appeared small and cute, not being on the same level in terms of size. That should be the Salween. What a huge ship! Colonel Eller lifted his binoculars, recognizing the approaching Devourer-class deep-diving cruiser. The arrival of the Salween sparked spirit among the Jekka Group's research ships working in this sea area. What are those boats trying to do? Seeing Jekka Group's research ships launch several small boats, quickly heading towards the rear of their own research ship, Professor Olvera's tone changed. But soon, Professor Olvera understood the purpose of those small boats. Jekka Group's boats went to the sea area where Beautiful Country's research ship had just deployed sonar buoys and detection information devices and brazenly recovered those sonar buoys and various acoustic remote sensing detectors in front of Beautiful Country. Fake. These thieves, stop them quickly. Professor Olvera was first stunned, angered by Jekka Group's bold move. The buoys and detectors they painstakingly deployed to monitor underwater conditions were being recovered by Jekka Group, making their effort wasted. Moreover, these devices were quite expensive. Beautiful Country vessels. This sea area is our Jekka Group's research zone. You all must leave quickly. A radio message from Jekka Group's research ship was received, and someone from the ship aimed a high-pressure water cannon at Beautiful Country's research ship, drenching the crew on deck, sending them scattering. Professor Olvera was also doused, the impact of the high-pressure water cannon being very strong. The elderly professor could not resist its force, being spun around on the floor. Help him, quickly. Professor Olvera, are you okay? Professor Olvera. Accelerate, we need to leave here. The crew scrambled, quickly helping Olvera up and bringing him back inside the vessel. Professor Olvera shivered from the cold, changing into a dry robe, clenching his teeth in anger. Damn it, Jekka Group is so domineering. Today's incident, I'll definitely complain about them when I return. Let it go. The situation is beyond our control. Colonel Eller's face was ugly, but seeing the Salween approaching, he swallowed his foul words. If their aircraft carrier battle group were here, they wouldn't let Jekka Group be so arrogant. But without their carrier group here, they could only endure being suppressed. Forced to accept it, they could only swallow this grievance. Beautiful Country's research ship, embarrassed, intended to leave the sea area. But after a few kilometers, an ear-piercing beeping sound suddenly filled the command room of Beautiful Country's research ship. The sonar operator jumped up excitedly, shouting, "Report! Detected abnormal movement under the sea. Sonar signal comparison indicates suspected deep-sea island from the Mariana Trench, with over 90% similarity." On Beautiful Country's research ship, there was silence for a dozen seconds, followed by an uproar as all the experts rushed to the command room. On the sea surface, large bubbles started appearing, as if something was rising from the sea. The seawater seemed to be boiling, with fish frantically leaping at the surface. A massive shadowy outline began to emerge from the water, gradually becoming clear. In the next moment, A huge waterfall of seawater rose, with white waves like rolling dragons, triggering a small tsunami. The nearby ships, whether from the Jekka group or the beautiful country, swayed back and forth under the pounding waves. But the people on the ships didn't care at this point. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the black and white stone monument emerging from the water. Like a stabilizer, the appearance of the black and white stone monument instantly quelled the raging waters into a bizarre calm. The black and white stone monument rose higher and higher, revealing more buildings, forests, and land beneath the sea. The Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace surfaced in the eyes of the world, resembling a giant deep-sea tortoise rising from the depths. On the island, the immortal Ganoderma spirit root exuded medicinal fragrance, and giant trees shaded the sky, their canopies like umbrellas, roots like dragons. There were also numerous buildings scattered across the island, from jade towers and palaces to eerie necropolises, forming a spine-chilling complex. The whole island was clearly divided into two parts, one vibrant with life, the other lifeless and desolate. Oh my God! It's this island, we finally found it. Aboard the beautiful country's research ship, Olvera was ecstatic, eyes alight, waving his fists and shouting, overwhelmed with excitement. The other experts on the research ship were similarly excited. To these scholars and experts, an island suspected to be the relic of an ancient civilization breaking into the world shattered humanity's understanding of history, containing values that could drive countries worldwide mad. Not to mention the deep-sea island itself, the capability to construct such a massive island that moved naturally through the sea, its energy system far exceeding the imagination of Blue Star humanity. Quickly, report our findings up the chain. Request support from the carrier battle group. Eller, despite his excitement, gravely eyed the Jekka group's fleet. Besides them, the Jekka group was there too, always a disruptive force. Their current power was no match for the Jekka group supported by the Salween cruiser. Does the Jekka group know something inside? Otherwise, how could the Salween cruiser conveniently appear here? Olvera watched the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace intently, as if realizing something. It all seemed too coincidental. Just after the Salween cruiser arrived, the deep-sea island surfaced. It's hard to believe there's no connection. So we need even more support. This island, our beautiful country, is determined to have it. Eller said, acknowledging the island's immense value and as the birthplace of sea monsters. If the beautiful country obtained the island and extracted various technologies, it could significantly strengthen its national power and consolidate its hegemonic status. Meanwhile, aboard the Jekka group's Salween cruiser, Commander Peng Hongta of the Far East Mixed Fleet watched the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace, utterly amazed by the island. There really is an island? Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. Peng Hongta muttered to himself, his eyes 70% shocked, 30% puzzled. Peng Hongta came here based on reports from Jekka Group's upper management, though the information was vague, merely instructing him to come here, stating an island would appear. Initially, he was confused until witnessing the miracle with his own eyes. It dawned on him that Jekka Group had known about the island all along. Commander, should we drive them away now? The deputy pointed to the beautiful country's research ship on the distant sea surface and suggested, driving them away now is pointless. What's happening here must already be known by the beautiful country, even globally. For countries with satellites, this can't be hidden for long. Peng Hongta shook his head and ordered, report our discoveries here back to the group's headquarters immediately. Order the Far East Mixed Fleet, save for ships on active missions, to converge here at full speed. Yes. The deputy nodded gravely and went to mobilize additional naval forces. Peng Hongta watched the massive island as a helicopter landed on the deck of the Salween cruiser. A team hurriedly approached. This was an expert team rushed over from the Jekka Group's research ship, led by a professor named Luo Yuqing, a renowned Chinese-American biology professor. As soon as Luo Yuqing disembarked, he rushed towards Peng Hongta, speaking excitedly, Commander Peng, a major discovery, an incredible discovery. There's actually such an island in the ocean that can move through the water. This is destined to be the greatest discovery of the century. Peng Hongta nodded, saying, Professor Luo, you are right. This is indeed a miracle. As eyewitnesses, we are destined to become world famous. Ha! Who would have thought that looking for sea monster traces would lead to an unexpected harvest? I believe this island is very likely related to the sea monsters rampaging in Japan. Luo Yuqing grew increasingly excited, pointing at the deep-sea island and talking non-stop. This island surely hides immense secrets. I apply to enter the island for investigation. This opportunity cannot be missed. Peng Hongtai said in a deep voice. Everyone, I know you are anxious, but we still don't know the situation on the island right now. Rushing up there poses a great risk which I cannot agree to. Upon hearing this, Luo Yuqing immediately became anxious. What? Commander Peng, in the face of such a monumental discovery of the century, what does a little danger count for? The opportunity is so rare. What if this island sinks back into the deep sea later? Luo Yuqing, with spittle flying in his excitement, showed no signs of old age, staring down Peng Hongtai, as if he would fight to the death to go ashore if Peng Hongtai disagreed. Indeed, Commander Peng, you cannot stifle our exploration of scientific research. Not allowing us to land on the island in this situation is more painful than death to us. Such a mysterious island. Just landing on it would have our names go down in history. What is life-threatening danger in comparison? Even if I have to risk this old body of mine, I'll go ashore. Commander Peng, please agree to our request. Other experts also began to clamor noisily, showing a willingness to die if necessary, insisting on landing on the island. Peng Hongtai was about to persuade them again when he suddenly saw some movement from the beautiful country's fleet over there. There were helicopters taking off from the escort ships and several small boats approaching the deep-sea island on the surface of the sea. Commander Peng, the beautiful country has already taken action. We absolutely cannot let the beautiful country land on the island first. Seeing this, Luo Yuqing's expression grew agitated, as if seeing a beloved being taken away. Peng Hongtai frowned, and his adjutant came over to remind, Commander, multiple high-speed targets have been detected heading this way. It's the beautiful country's Air Force. After much deliberation, Peng Hongtai finally agreed to Luo Yuqing's request. I will send a team of soldiers to protect you. Be sure to stay safe after landing on the island. Having received the promise to land, Luo Yuqing's face lit up with joy, repeatedly assuring, no problem, though we old folks have a spirit of dedication to science. Staying alive is definitely better than being dead. With Peng Hongtai's consent, soon on the Jekka Group side, several speedboats were also lowered, racing towards the deep-sea island. Both sides were approaching, the speedboats carving white trails on the sea surface. As they drew closer, the massive size of this deep-sea island became all the more palpable. Finally, both sides tacitly landed on a flat rocky terrain because most of the deep-sea island was rugged cliffs, making passage difficult. After the speedboats docked, both parties sized each other up. Humph. So it's you, Olvera, you old geezer. Luo Yuqing pouted. The global circle of top-tier expert scholars and professors was just that small, and they were all involved in biological research, so they had long known each other. Old Luo, you're 67 years old already. Instead of enjoying your retirement at home, you're out here being an adventurer. Better watch out for leaving those old bones here. Olvera, equally unwilling to back down, exchanged a few quips with Luo Yuqing. The expert teams from both sides were similarly spirited, including the Jekka Group soldiers and the beautiful country soldiers accompanying them for protection, who were also confronting each other. Crash! From the last arriving speedboat, a second-generation Sacred Blood Gene warrior, standing 3 meters tall, wholly silver, wielding a fire god cannon in the left hand, a rocket launcher on the shoulder, and carrying 2 large-caliber anti-material sniper rifles on the back, stepped down slowly, an invisible aura of menace spreading. The beautiful country's arguments ceased abruptly, staring at the cold-eyed, murderous Gene warrior. Everyone on the beautiful countryside quietly swallowed their spit, while the soldiers tightened their grip on their weapons. Though this offered no sense of security, as the Jin warrior's formidable battle record made them like lambs to the slaughter in front of the Jin warrior. Let's go. Luo Yuqing glared at Olvera but didn't waste any more time, leading his own team to choose a direction and leave. We're moving out. Olvera waved a hand, leading his team down another path. Meanwhile, several beautiful country jets had already reached the area, backing up the beautiful country's team. In the farther distance, the beautiful country's aircraft carrier strike group and Jekka Group's Far East mixed fleet were speeding towards the area. Such a large-scale mobilization of warships naturally could not be concealed from the world's nations. As these countries adjusted their satellites' orbits, soon everyone discovered a sudden, immense island appearing on the sea surface. Beautiful country, emergency meeting at the Black Palace. Jasmine's voice carried a hint of excitement, her tone invigorated. The deep-sea island has been discovered. This island is currently surfaced offshore of Japan Hokkaido. Our people have already landed. But the bad news is that the Jekka Group has also discovered the deep-sea island and is now confronting our fleet. Judith's tone was resolute, saying, Mr. President, this island concerns the future development of our beautiful country. We must not let this island fall into Jekka Group's hands. Minister of Defense Harman clenched his fist and stood up, saying, Mr. President, our military is determined to defend the national interests of the beautiful country. Even if the enemy is Jekka Group, this time we absolutely will not compromise. Harman's gaze was passionate. Although the beautiful country had repeatedly retreated and compromised in its assaults on the Jekka Group, from the Southeast Peninsula to Southeast Asia, from Yutai Country to Sakura Island. But this time is fundamentally different. An island suspected of being a remnant of super-ancient civilization contains abundant advanced technology. Whoever obtains it, their national power will advance by leaps and bounds. If the beautiful country wants to maintain its position as the Blue Star dominator, it must control this deep-sea island, or at least prevent it from falling to the Jekka Group, even if it means destroying it rather than letting Jekka Group have it. Tomorrow I will convene Congress, deploy 2 more aircraft carrier battle groups to Japan's sea domain, show Jekka Group our determination, and maybe they will choose to back down. Jasmine nodded as the beautiful country president. He was under enormous pressure. It would be ideal if Jekka Group could be persuaded to retreat voluntarily. He did not rashly speak of going to war, as he was not really a pro-war president, but a moderate, advocating for suppressing Jekka Group's development through non-war means. This approach was why Jekka Group had been able to so smoothly expand its territory during repeated conflicts, and Jasmine as president could not be disentangled from this fact. If it were another president, they might not be as easygoing as Jasmine. Seeing Jasmine's approach to war was ambiguous, Harman understood Jasmine's intention to avoid conflict if possible. With Jekka Group's disposition, the likelihood of them voluntarily backing down is extremely low. Judith shrugged. Since Jekka Group's rise, it had been like a honey badger, never knowing fear or retreat, confidently provoking the beautiful country, the Blue Star dominator. I've long said do not blindly compromise with Jekka Group. It makes them think our beautiful country is easy to bully. Harman pouted. From the military standpoint, maintaining a certain level of military friction with Jekka Group benefits the backstage arms dealer's weapon sales. There's no use talking about it now. Let's think about how to secure that island. Moreover, Jekka Group is not our only opponent. Any globally capable nation, including our allies, might not resist joining in. Judith spoke, his tone intensifying. That island is near Japan, where we have massive troop deployments and naval bases, which is favorable for the beautiful country. But to avoid an extended conflict, we should act quickly, not giving other countries too much time to react. Once we announce its ownership, other countries might only negotiate joint research without strong contention. Let's proceed with that plan. Jasmine made the final decision, settling the beautiful country's future actions regarding the deep-sea island. Just after Blue Star Group and beautiful country mobilized warships on a large scale towards the Inyang Sea suppressing palace, those countries with satellites mostly discovered the underlying issue. The sudden appearance of an island off the coast of Japan Hokkaido shocked the countries that discovered it. The current blue star is no longer what it was hundreds of years ago. Hundreds of years ago, humanity's navigation technology was poor, and humanity was in the era of great geographical discoveries. Those adventurers and merchants often found new islands and continents in the vast ocean, like Columbus discovering a new continent, which is a widely known classic case on Blue Star. But entering the 21st century, Blue Star no longer has unknown islands left to be discovered. All the land on the surface has been touched by human footprints. Now a suddenly emerging island, not formed by geological volcanic eruptions but extraordinarily large, with towering trees and vast buildings, hit the countries that discovered it like a hammer, leaving them dazed. Ancient relics, alien creations, natural wonders, mythological legends, various conjectures ignited fierce discussions among the high levels and think tanks of various countries. Especially in East Asia, this deep-sea island raises significant sensitivity. Because, historically, there have been many records of overseas immortal mountains, even the unified Emperor Sure couldn't forget about them. The mysterious island appearing off the coast of Japan, Hokkaido, matches the historical accounts of the mythological overseas immortal mountain. But no matter which country, after understanding why Blue Star Group and Beautiful Country made such a fuss, they all started mobilizing their forces, and those capable of dispatching warships sent fleets to Japan Hokkaido Sea area immediately. Some countries unable to reach began to actively contact Blue Star Group and Beautiful Country diplomatically, hoping the two could disclose the situation so they could have a share and participate in researching this mysterious island. In fact, not only national powers but with today's well-developed satellite network, especially after Blue Star Group's Kunping rocket emerged and reduced satellite launch costs drastically, the number of rockets in Blue Star space increased, with various commercial satellites filling the sky. These commercial satellites also have high accuracy, although inferior to spy satellites. They can still discern errors within meters, let alone where such a large island is located, and as soon as commercial satellites change trajectory, they can immediately detect this giant in the sea. These commercial satellites can reveal satellite location shooting information as long as individuals pay. Thus, information about the mysterious island off Japan Hokkaido has already been exposed online, sharing this shocking news with the world. Yet these messages often mysteriously get 404 errors soon after appearing online. Countries around the world have a mutual understanding in this matter, to cover it up first, to avoid public opinion and attitudes causing other incidents and stirring up in these significant matters, so they can share their piece of the cake. Taking this opportunity, Blue Star countries and the true powers have already started actively mobilizing, wanting to seize the benefits of this mysterious island first. Just as countries on Blue Star were stirred up by the emergence of the Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace, on the Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace, Olvera's group of 32, besides 8 experts and scholars from various fields, the rest are soldiers dispatched by Beautiful Country. The party walked on the deep-sea island, and what they heard and saw opened their eyes. What kind of soil is this? Olvera crouched down and grabbed a handful of soil. This soil showed no signs of being eroded by seawater, dry and moist just right, and as it was dug, one could feel a faint warm sensation, which made Olvera and the experts marveled. Collect samples. At Olvera's command, someone began digging up several chunks of soil, preserving them with the intention of analyzing their components after bringing them off the deep-sea island. The group continued forward, moving from the rocky land on the deep-sea island's periphery into the dense vegetation of the jungle. Here, towering trees reaching up to 100 meters rise, their canopies like umbrellas, while low shrubs grow on the ground. Even seemingly ordinary weeds are full of vibrant life, giving off a wondrous feeling. Occasionally, one could even see a cluster of treasure, strange flowers, spirit fruit, and strange grass. These are real spirit roots, containing a rich yang attribute spiritual power. They are part of what sustains the operation of the Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace Formation. Where such a spirit root stands, for 3 meters around, no vegetation grows, for ordinary plants cannot bear the yang flame waves emitted by the yang attribute spirit root constantly. Upon entering here, Olvera and others were breathing rapidly. Their eyes turned greedy and burning with desire. Are those plants the so-called spiritual root treasure medicines in East Asian culture that can prolong life if consumed? Could this island truly be the legendary Panglai Fairy Island or something? Stop with the nonsense. Start collecting. Don't miss a single one. Beautiful Country's experts discussed among themselves, with some already impatiently rushing towards those spirit roots, forgetting basic caution in the face of significant discovery. The fastest one dashed towards a fire crow ginseng, which has a shape similar to Blue Star's ginseng, with about 2 feet of its part above ground, crowned with bunches of foliage like blazing flames, extraordinarily beautiful and grand. Imogen, hold on. Don't get too close. Be careful of the danger. Seeing this, Olvera still retained his rationality. For these unknown, mysterious plants, it's best to maintain sufficient reverence. Recklessly approaching is too rash, not the quality an expert should have. Imogen, who was stopped by Olvera, turned his head and smiled. Professor Olvera, it's just a plant. Nothing to worry about, I am here. Imogen didn't heed Olvera's words. He couldn't restrain his desire to explore and possess these magical plants. As long as he could obtain a plant like this, research it when he returned and publish some papers, he would become the most renowned scholar domestically and internationally, the pioneer in unlocking the super-ancient civilization relics. At that point, his status in academia would soar, becoming the top authority in the academic world. While speaking, Imogen subconsciously took 2 more steps forward. But it was these 2 steps that led to an unexpected incident. Suddenly, the branches and leaves of the fire crow ginseng in front of Imogen spontaneously combusted with flames, covering the crown of its branches and leaves. A cluster of flames floated outward and landed on Imogen. A terrifying thing happened. Imogen's whole body ignited as if he were doused in gasoline, and scorching flames enveloped him, turning him into a human-shaped torch. The screams were earth-shattering. Imogen howled in pain as his flesh and skin charred and oozed under the flames, rolling desperately on the ground, yet unable to extinguish the fire. Hurry! Save him! Put out the fire! Get all the water! The soldiers from the Beautiful Country were experienced warriors. They reacted immediately. Some took off their coats to douse the flames on Imogen, while others used water they carried to try and save him. But the effort was futile, the flames burning exceedingly hot, impossible for human effort to extinguish in a short time. In just over 30 seconds, Imogen stopped moving, becoming a charred corpse, vaguely emitting a scent of burnt meat. The flames then finally dissipated, and the people from Beautiful Country saw Imogen's tragic state. The once 1.8-meter tall Imogen was severely shrunken. His body's moisture evaporated by the intense flames, even his bones and flesh charred to a crisp, breaking into powder with a light touch. In Tianyuan world, fire crow ginseng is not considered a rare and expensive spirit root, but it's not common either. This attack isn't that strong, even for low-level cultivators in Tianyuan world. Most can avoid its attacks, and inner disciples above the 5th level of Yunling realm can use spiritual energy to protect themselves and directly fend off the flames. Even ordinary people in Tianyuan world, like the old herbalists collecting herbs in the mountains, as long as they have enough knowledge about fire crow ginseng, can employ other methods to harvest them. Over years of development, cultivators in Tianyuan world have long summarized various corresponding ways to harvest spiritual roots and plants. But the people of Blue Star didn't know that. Cultivators can easily handle the attacks of fire crow ginseng, but to ordinary people of Blue Star, it's exceedingly lethal. Furthermore, under the influence of the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace, the fire crow ginseng, as part of the formation, had its attack strength and aggression significantly increased by the formation. This plant. Olvera looked at the fire crow ginseng with a terrible expression. Some soldiers from the Beautiful Country couldn't help but point their guns at the fire crow ginseng. Seemingly sensing a threat, the fire crow ginseng suddenly moved, its crown shaking back and forth, clusters of flames drifting outward. Fake! Quickly dodge these flames. Oh my God! This thing can actively attack. Open fire. Shoot and kill this devil species plant. People from the Beautiful Country were horrified, frantically dodging. Some soldiers chose to open fire, bullets mowing down the fire crow ginseng. Although the team from the Beautiful Country tried their best to dodge, the number of floating flames was too many, and the soldiers also needed to protect the clumsy experts, resulting in 2 more soldiers from the beautiful country getting hit, quickly turning into human-shaped torches. Meanwhile, Fire Crow Ginseng, under bullet assault, showed many wounds. Burning blood oozed from the wounds. Then Fire Crow Ginseng violently shook its trunk, with its ginseng body emerging from the soil. The ginseng body had humanoid facial features, and its ginseng whiskers resembled human limbs, looking round and chubby, though the body was red. Once out of the ground, Fire Crow Ginseng's 2 short legs quickly hopped, bouncing as it fled, disappearing into the bushes within seconds, leaving behind a flabbergasted group of people from the beautiful country. What the hell is this damn thing? Olvera couldn't contain it anymore. A plant that could spray fire and exit the soil to escape. He had never seen anything as outrageous in his life, even more mind-blowing than sea monsters. He had anticipated potential casualties before entering the deep-sea island, but didn't expect to trip over a plant, losing people unexpectedly to a nonsensical plant. This island was far more dangerous than he imagined. 1,000-year-old ginseng essence. This is definitely 1,000-year-old ginseng essence. In Hua country's mythical tales, this kind of ginseng can run and jump, resembling a human body. Eating one can extend your life by 100 years. Don't let it escape. Catch it, a Japanese scholar shouted, eyes filled with undeniable hunger. Extend life by 100 years? Everyone present had a glint of green in their eyes. A few soldiers from beautiful country chased where the Fire Crow Ginseng disappeared, yet there was no trace of it. Are you sure this is 1,000-year-old ginseng essence? Olvera, with a serious face, looked at the Japanese scholar. A miraculous plant extending life by 100 years. If it truly existed, countless global elites and wealthy individuals would go mad over it. I believe it is 1,000-year-old ginseng essence. Our location is likely Penglai Fairy Island mentioned in Eastern mythology. Penglai Fairy Island is one of the 3 immortal mountains at sea, the abode of legendary immortals, planted with an elixir of immortality. That ginseng resembling a human might just be 1,000-year-old ginseng essence, having grown for 1,000 years, turning spiritual and intelligent, capable of extending life. Though not as exaggerated as living forever, as ancient people tended to exaggerate things. But where there's smoke, there's fire. Ordinary ginseng has such effects, let alone this miraculously spiritual 1,000-year-old ginseng essence, surely able to prolong life. The Japanese scholar looked excited, as if witnessing the dawn of a mythological era. With even the 1,000-year-old ginseng essence from myths appearing, could it be true that this world has immortals and ghosts? However, if the cultivators from Tianyuan world heard this, they would certainly laugh. It's true that Fire Crow Ginseng is an exceptional spirit root, but thinking it can extend life by 100 years is a stretch. Extending lifespan isn't easy. Otherwise, in Tianyuan world, countless cultivators wouldn't be meditating to death from exhausted lifespans. The demon path does have methods to extend life, but they often come with severe side effects, resulting in an existence not quite human nor ghost, making living worse than dying. There are ultimate spirit roots that can extend life, but not the Fire Crow Ginseng, which isn't 1,000 years old either. It merely grew for 100 years in the spirit vein of the Purple Mist sect and became one of Sujie's massive loot after he destroyed the sect. Damn, we didn't capture that thing. Hearing the Japanese scholar, Olvera flashed a look of regret. Capturing that running 1,000-year-old ginseng essence would have made the island expedition an immense success. However, Olvera cast his gaze elsewhere in the jungle, spotting other mysterious plants similar to the 1,000-year-old ginseng essence. But recalling the dangerous, flame-spewing ginseng, he hesitated, then firmly cautioned, "Be careful this time. Don't let your guard down." Everyone nodded eagerly like pecking hens. Given the recent events, who would dare drop their guard again? However, Olvera and the others planned to collect those spiritual root treasure medicines, but these treasure medicines seemed to sense something. Although the Yin Yang Sea Suppressing Palace is merely a human Tao-level wonder, its spiritual energy is even more abundant than many pocket worlds in the Tianyuan world. Therefore, the plants growing here, even the weeds, possess an extraordinary aura, not to mention the spiritual roots and plants. Unanimously, These spiritually enlightened treasure medicines uprooted themselves, their roots winding into feet, and they sprinted away, darting through the bushes to find a new place to bury themselves again. Olvera was dumbfounded, quickly shouting, "Chase them! Don't let them escape!" The group, disregarding the bodies of their companions, went chasing after the fleeing spirit roots. In a flash, they ran for quite a while. The surrounding forest became denser, with gigantic tree crowns blocking the light, making the forest environment increasingly dark. Suddenly, the light ahead became brighter, and while chasing a spirit root, they arrived in front of a palace pavilion. This palace pavilion stands 15 stories high and spans over 10 acres. Magnificent and grand, with carved beams and painted rafters, 2 ferocious Xuanwu statues stand erected before it, alongside a lone willow tree rooted in the light red soil, planted before the pavilion. The bark of the willow tree is like a coiled dragon, its vibrant green leaves thriving with life like top-grade jadeite, with light red fruits hanging throughout the branches, exuding a rich fragrance. A trunk that requires 10 people to encircle has an ancient long sword inserted upside down into it. Most of the sword blade is embedded in the trunk, with strands of sword intent entwining around the willow tree, rendering the surrounding vegetation non-existent. Olvera and the others immediately halted, helplessly watching the spirit plant escape into the pavilion. At the half-closed door of the pavilion, the shelves inside were faintly visible, lined with ancient books possessing profound historical auras, as well as various bottles and jars. Curiously, in a 100-meter radius of the willow tree, the land is fragmented, crisscrossed with deep gullies. Some of the red fruits have also fallen to the ground, some rotten, others still intact. This sword, and that tree, indeed, this absolutely is a super-ancient civilization relic. Olvera murmured to himself, the ancient sword alone, just by gazing at it, gives a slicing sensation that tingles against the skin. The scent of the red fruits suspended in the willow tree made everyone's mouths water, feeling their bodies lightened as if a heavy burden was lifted off. The spirit sword and spiritual medicine, the ancient books and jade bottles inside that pavilion, might contain information about the immortals and the legendary elixir. The Japan historian's eyes were greedy. If not for the previous lessons, he would have wanted to claim everything he saw for himself. We should first. Olvera contemplated testing the waters first, intending to take that sword, the willow tree's red fruits, and the ancient books and Dan bottles in the pavilion. But before he could put his ideas into action, a sudden wind blew. The wind rustled through the willow tree's leaves, emitting a sharp sword's cry. Sword chi fluttered like flying snow, spreading in fine strands, immediately cutting down some red fruits hanging on the willow tree, tumbling and rolling to the ground. The fine strands of sword chi swept across the land, opening deep fissures. An overwhelming sense of danger permeated, making everyone's hair stand on end. In the beautiful country team, silently, a beautiful country soldier felt a chill in his left hand, hearing the thud of something falling to the ground, only realizing after looking down, seeing that his left hand was severed from the elbow, the cut smooth and clean, blood spraying from the wound, while the severed hand still gripped a gun on the ground. Fake, my hand is broken. With adrenaline masking the pain, he stood in shock for a few seconds, but then the intense pain erupted instantly, contorting his features, and he howled in agony. However, he was comparatively fortunate, as there were many in the beautiful country team in worse situations than him. Someone's neck was sliced by the invisible sword chi, their heads soaring high, the headless body falling heavily to the ground. Someone else was cut at the waist by the sword chi, being severed in half, still conscious, desperately crawling on the ground, dragging their half-body and exposed intestines. Olvera was bewildered, staring blankly at the Japan scholar who was talking beside him a moment ago. This Japan scholar was swept by a piece of sword chi, and the dense sword chi caused him to disintegrate entirely, as if being slashed to death by 1,000 cuts, turning into a heap of minced flesh. Enveloped by invisible sword chi, the human body was utterly defenseless, unable to even scream before being reduced to a carpet of blood-red meat strands covering the ground. With just a gust of wind, The beautiful country team's numbers were halved. The rest stood paralyzed with fear. Retreat! Retreat quickly! Olvera was trembling all over, quickly giving a retreat order. This place was too terrifying, let alone coveting the spirit sword. They might all be killed before even getting near it. All the soldiers and scholars from the beautiful country team ran helter-skelter in their panic, when suddenly another wind blew past. The invisible strands of sword chi attacked again, causing several of those who ran slower to follow in the same tragic fate, being diced to pieces by the invisible sword chi. A few red fruits were also chopped off by the sword chi, one of them flying towards Olvera. Olvera's breath hitched, gritting his teeth, coming to a halt, rapidly picking up a few red fruits. It was just then that a new gust of wind blew. The sword chi, like frost, spread across the land, splitting open deep seams and gullies on the ground. Silently, Olvera's right wrist broke. He paid the price for his recklessness. Yet, even with a broken hand, Olvera dared not linger. He staggered away in pain, barely escaping into the depths of the forest before the next wave of sword chi swept through. Counting the survivors, only 8 remained. When they landed on the island, there were over 30 of them. In such a short time, the loss was enormous, and they were close to being wiped out. Like Olvera, who survived by luck, his right hand was now gone. The intense pain made Olvera's face pale. Although the soldiers had administered a painkiller, it couldn't immediately quell the severe pain. Yet at this moment, the red fruit Olvera had risked his life to retrieve emitted a luminous green light. The surging life essence spread out and touched the stump of Olvera's wrist. An astonishing scene unfolded. At the sight of Olvera's wound, flesh sprouts rapidly grew. Bones, blood vessels, tendons, flesh, and skin began to rapidly regenerate. In just a minute, Olvera's hand completely regrew. This miraculous effect shocked everyone. Olvera moved his right hand and found it fully functional, with no deficiencies. If not for the hand's skin being noticeably pink and differently shaded from the rest, no one would believe it was newly grown. My God! Has God manifested? This is a miracle indeed. What exactly is this fruit that it could have such terrifying regenerative powers? I suspect that tree was planted by God. Otherwise, how could it have such an effect? The surviving members of the beautiful country team all gaped, their worldview overturned once more. They had initially doubted the existence of the so-called life-extending elixir, but with this example of the red fruit, their doubts vanished. If a fruit could rapidly restore missing limbs, then fruits that could extend life seemed entirely plausible. After healing Olvera's broken hand, the once brilliantly red fruit had dimmed. The treatment had consumed a great deal of the fruit's energy, and it could only be used a few more times. Olvera treasured it as if it were a rare gem, carefully preserving the red fruit for detailed study once they returned. He already had a premonition of the furor this discovery would ignite once they returned. Knowing about this fruit, the powerful would stop at nothing to seize this island. Let's not delve deeper into the island. It's too dangerous. We'll collect some samples from the perimeter and return. Olvera suggested, satisfied with the red fruit's bounty, which was already substantial. Moreover, they had barely entered the depths of the island and were already close to being annihilated. If they didn't know when to quit, they might not make it off the island. The group nodded in agreement with Olvera's wise decision. Truth be told, they were already terrified of the island, tense at the sight of anything new, fearing for their lives and eager to return as soon as possible. Furthermore, let's not rush. We've received news from home that 3 of our beautiful country's aircraft carrier battle groups are heading here. The Japanese beautiful country garrisons and various major naval air bases are mobilizing the Air Force. With our beautiful country's formidable military power, this island will eventually be ours. Olvera added, boosting morale. From then on, the 8 dared not venture further, only daring to linger along the safe edges of the island. Elsewhere in the Inyang Sea Suppressing Palace, the Jekka group encountered no danger. On the contrary, their exploration was very smooth. Among their team, Two members took out professional equipment and started a live broadcast. Luo Yuqing was bewildered, watching the two public relations officers from the JECA Group. At first, he was curious about why the JECA Group sent them. Little did he know it was for a live broadcast. Broadcast, you mean the kind I think? Luo Yuqing pointed at the professional broadcasting equipment, hesitantly asking. Professor Luo, you actually know about broadcasts. Yes, it's just as you think. We'll open this broadcast to the world. Public Relations Officer Ruan Xinhuai laughed heartily, responding while adjusting the lens, testing signal strength, linking to communication satellites to ensure stable signal transmission. Nonsense. I'm not some old fossil. I use my phone too. Luo Yuqing, looking puzzled, asked. What I don't get is, shouldn't this be confidential? Isn't such exposure too public? These are orders from above. I just follow them. My superiors say do this, I do this. Ruan Xinhuai finally confirmed the broadcast setup, making an okay gesture to the cameraman. The next moment the camera lit up, and the broadcast began. Hello, everyone. This is the official JECA Group live broadcast room. I'm your host, Ruan Xinhuai, currently bringing you a broadcast sure to go down in history. You'd never guess our current location, so I'll let the cat out of the bag. Right now, I'm on an island off the coast of Hokkaido, a site suspected to be a super ancient civilization relic. This relic rose from the sea just 2 hours ago. The major countries that needed to know have learned of it, but some countries are deliberately erasing the information to keep it from their people. But JECA Group doesn't care. This island is a treasure for all humanity and mustn't be monopolized by any ambitious individuals. For example, the beautiful country, which is now deploying a large fleet here, intends to occupy the island. Such actions won't be tolerated by JECA Group. Before joining JECA Group, Ruan Xinhuai was indeed a small-time broadcaster, never really gaining traction. But now he faced the camera with confidence, speaking eloquently. With the broadcast underway, many television programs in Southeast Asia switched to this broadcast. On major internet platforms in the Southeast Asia region, JECA Group's official broadcast room was pinned as a forced pop-up. Even on known live broadcast sites outside Southeast Asia, like YouTube, JECA Group's broadcast room also began. Worldwide, seeing JECA Group suddenly start this broadcast, many people were curious. After all, it carried the official mark of JECA Group, which rarely did such things. The previous grandiose action was when JECA Group publicly conducted a nuclear weapon test, nuclear detonation on a deserted island, and launched strategic intercontinental ballistic missiles. Driven by curiosity, many viewers flooded the broadcast room, eager to see what significant move JECA Group was planning. And then these viewers heard Ruan Xinhuai's outrageous remarks. Super ancient civilization relic, an island that suddenly rose from the sea. The first thought in everyone's mind was disbelief. Out of the blue, someone claims it's a super ancient civilization relic. If anyone else said this, they'd be considered crazy. But since it was spoken by JECA Group, many believed it to some extent, assuming JECA Group wouldn't concoct something entirely baseless to deceive the world. Doing so would make them a laughingstock globally. On the national scale, combining the sudden global broadcast by JECA Group with the beautiful country's large-scale fleet movements, they immediately understood JECA Group's intent, to muddy the waters. The beautiful country's high officials were particularly displeased, perceiving that JECA Group felt pressured by the 3 aircraft carrier battle groups and wanted to prevent their quiet takeover of the deep-sea island by bringing it to the public, disallowing them from monopolizing. JECA Group remains detestable. However, the truth behind JECA Group's live broadcast is far simpler. It's to introduce everyone to the Yin Yang Sea suppressing palace. Without this step, how could they appeal for faith power? Super ancient civilization relics? I thought today wasn't April Fool's Day. What is JECA Group thinking, staging such an easily debunked live broadcast? Knowing JECA Group's style, the super ancient civilization relics might not be fake. The environment in the broadcast is genuinely good. Even if it's staged, JECA Group has put effort into it. I'm a PhD in botany, and the plants appearing in the video are herbaceous plants I've never seen before. Many people lack resolution, just use satellites to take photos to identify real from fake. Such a large island. If it truly exists, wouldn't it be discovered already? In the official live broadcast room of Jekka Group, various comments were refreshed constantly, and opinions on Jekka Group were split 50-50 between believers and skeptics. At this time, Luo Yuqing and others had begun to move forward, with the photographer next to Ruan Xinhuai showcasing the scenery of the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace to the audience in the live broadcast. Towering ancient trees resembling dragons covered the sky, with thick vines entwined like giant serpents, lush vegetation spread in all directions, and a primitive wilderness aura greeted them. There were also those spirit roots and plants with extraordinary charm entering the view of Luo Yuqing and others. That is, Luo Yuqing gasped, looking at a petite, half-meter-tall purple bamboo. Shockingly, the bamboo's surface was covered with a substance like scales. Its branches and leaves twisted, coiling up, with weak arcs of electricity crackling on them. As the breeze blew, the bamboo emitted a sound akin to a dragon's roar. From afar it seemed like a young dragon growing from the ground. A bamboo that discharges electricity? Luo Yuqing's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. The other experts felt the same, and the Jekka Group team was astonished. In the live broadcast room, the barrage was torrential. Whoa, what's up with this bamboo? Is it a genetically modified species of electric eel? Why does it discharge electricity? Rather than an electric eel, it looks more like a young dragon. It's too magical. Surely this bamboo is fake. There might be wires buried inside it. You guys are easily fooled if you believe this. It's just a trick by Jekka Group. How could there be a bamboo that discharges electricity in this world? As the audience continued to argue, they were soon interrupted by an astonishing scene. The discharged small bamboo emitted a grand display of electric light, shooting an arc outward. Watch out! At the critical moment, a second-generation sacred blood gene warrior reacted swiftly, rushing forward with his biologically armored arm transforming into a shield to block the arc. The arc bounced around the gene warrior a few times, his body slightly stiffened, but thanks to the armor's protection, his strong physique, and the diluted holy blood within him, he remained unaffected. Seemingly aware the gene warrior was formidable, the electrified bamboo pulled out its roots from the soil, transformed into 2 small feet, and before the stupefied Luo Yuqing and over 1 billion live viewers, it darted away, disappearing into the forest. Thump, thump. On site, only the sound of residual electric arcs remained. Many surrounding spirit medicines and roots followed suit, pulled themselves out of the ground, and sprinted away using their root feet. Insulator. The gene warrior's eyes flashed slightly, his boot cutting through the ground like a blade, charging towards the discharged small bamboo and grabbing it before it disappeared. The discharged small bamboo struggled to discharge electricity, practically becoming an electric sphere, but the gene warrior enveloped it with an insulator, and after a few minutes of chaos, the bamboo wilted, its branches drooping weakly, almost sticking its tongue out panting. Just looking at it, everyone seemed to feel they were exhausted too. Unsurprisingly, this spirit root discharged small bamboo was successfully captured, while other spirit roots took advantage of its sacrifice to escape successfully. What is the principle behind this? The plant discharges electricity. Surrounded by experts and scholars, Luo Yuqing and the others stared at the discharged small bamboo, their faces full of disbelief, witnessing the mystical spirit root, their worldview greatly impacted. Dear audience, a groundbreaking major discovery. Just after landing, we found an extraordinary and amazing plant, one that runs, jumps, and discharges electricity, a never-before-seen existence. We are becoming witnesses to history. Ruan Xinhuai passionately explained, spitting fire in excitement. Oh my! Seeing it run at that moment, my mind echoed with tales of various magical creatures from movies. This bamboo is a breakthrough in global botany, its appearance shattering humans' understanding of plants. We humans perceive this world far too narrowly. I am starting to believe this is truly a super ancient civilization relics because with current human technology, I don't think such plants can be cultivated. How much does this running magical plant cost? I am willing to pay $10 million for one. I believe this is the legendary spiritual medicine from Hua country. Although the bamboo is only half a meter, I suspect it has grown for over 1,000 years. The live broadcast room became unbelievably lively. Barrages surged like a geyser, as the plants witnessed were too absurd, shaking everyone deeply. The word of mouth spread rapidly, causing the number of viewers in the live stream to soar. More and more people entered the live stream to witness Jekka Group's earth-shattering discovery. Everyone, we need to keep moving forward. After studying for a while, Luo Yuqing couldn't discern the truth. Time was limited, and they needed to explore more places before dark. They could only set aside the discharged small bamboo for now and analyze it later. The team from Jekka Group continued onward, and moments later, the outline of a large structure appeared before them. It was a magnificent 9-layered palace, with glazed tiles for roofs and green jade for walls. Dragons and phoenixes were intricately carved, intertwining around the red doors of the palace. The mouths of these dragon and phoenix reliefs held a dazzling white jade pearl, radiating grandeur and majesty, imposing a daunting sense of solemnity and pressure that made people unconsciously lighten their breathing and footsteps. Inside the 9-layered palace, ancient books were scattered everywhere. Dan bottles abounded, and even some decorations emitted a terrifying aura of swords, spears, and halberds hanging on the walls. The genetic warriors wore grave expressions. In front of this 9-layered palace, even he, who had taken countless lives, felt a sense of alarming crisis looming in his heart. Luo Yuqing and the others stared passionately at this 9-layered palace and its books and Dan bottles inside. Everything here suggested that if they could understand this place, they would achieve a decisive breakthrough regarding the origin of this deep-sea island. There are writings here. Ruan Xinghuai pointed to the red doors, revealing that atop the dragon and phoenix reliefs, each bore a section of hieroglyphic script. Old Zhu, what kind of script is this? Luo Yuqing quickly called over an elder named Zhu Qianyu, an expert in ancient scripts and history with extensive knowledge across numerous ancient scripts worldwide. Wait, let me see. These two characters seem to be in the format of Oracle Bone script. Zhu Qianyu examined the two characters, his mouth widening in shock, his heart trembling. What do these two characters mean? Hurry and tell us. Luo Yuqing glared at Zhu Qianyu, his curiosity gnawing at him. Although the format has some differences, I shouldn't be mistaken. These two Oracle Bone script characters mean Peng and Lai respectively. Combined, they form the word Peng Lai. The term Peng Lai originates from the pre-Qin period's strange book, Classic of Mountains and Seas, See Internal North, which records Peng Lai Mountain is in the sea, with immortals residing there. The palaces are made entirely of gold and jade. All birds and beasts are white, appearing like clouds, located in the Bohai Sea. The records of the grand historian Ch. Fengchan Shu also mentions, since Wei, Xian, Yan Zhao sent people to sea to seek Peng Lai, Abbot, and Yingzhou. These three divine mountains are said to be in the Bohai Sea, not far from people. When troubles approach, they are driven away by the wind. It is said that there have been those who reached it, and all the immortals and the elixir of immortality are there. All creatures and beasts are white, and the palaces are made of gold and silver. In mythological tales, Peng Lai is one of the 3 fairy mountains overseas. It is described as having divine beings residing there, with skin like ice and snow, soft as a maiden, who do not consume grains, feed on the wind and drink dew, ride clouds, tame flying dragons, and venture beyond the 4 seas. The most notable legend involves Qin Shi Huang, who, in a quest for the elixir of immortality, dispatched 3,000 boys and girls to the overseas fairy mountain to seek the elixir to rule the empire for eternity. Zhu Qianyu took a deep breath, his face flushed, as he revealed his conjecture. Peng Lai. The scene went silent for a few seconds, with experts and scholars uniformly displaying expressions as if they'd seen a ghost. Chinese culture has been widely disseminated and influential across the whole of Asia. These experts and scholars are knowledgeable and naturally know the significance of the word Peng Lai. Could it be that Peng Lai Fairy Island is not a fabrication of the ancients, but truly exists? Luo Yuqing felt like his head was about to explode. If Peng Lai truly existed, wouldn't that mean human history could validate that mythological legends might not just be the ignorance of ancient people fancifully attributing incomprehensible natural phenomena with various mythical colors? For instance, the Peng Lai Fairy Island. Many modern scholars believe it might have been projections of mirages seen by ancient fishermen at sea, mistaken for a celestial island where immortals live, spreading the rumor over generations, forming the myths known today. Luo Yuqing used to think similarly. However, as he gazed at the 9-layered palace before him, with oracle bone script reading Peng Lai, he couldn't help but waver in that belief. Perhaps in the ancient days, there truly was an unknown mysterious history, with the existence of so-called cultivation and qi refiners. The official live stream of Jekka Group was completely abuzz. Peng Lai Fairy Island. This is the mythological Peng Lai Fairy Island. Qin Shi Huang dispatching 3,000 boys and girls to seek out the overseas fairyland wasn't just a mad dream. Those Eastern Asian mythological tales, no, absolutely not possible. I think this is Atlantis, the ancient sunken civilization in the sea, belonging to us Westerners. PSH, you foreign devils are not qualified to barge in. The architectural style here is nowhere close to anything Western, so don't randomly claim ancestry. Incredible. If it's truly the Peng Lai Fairy Island, could immortals really have existed in ancient times? I used to mock ancient people for their wild imaginations, believing the world was all about science. But now I realize maybe the world is actually a form of mysticism. Why are you all getting so excited? This could be Jekka Group faking things, you know. Believe it or not, I do. If any of you have a boat to go out to sea, I'm going to Peng Lai Fairy Island to seek guidance from the immortals. Ha! My celestial fate might just be on the brink of arrival. Stop fantasizing. Hokkaido has been blockaded by multinational warships long ago. Civilian vessels have no chance of getting close. The live stream room's bullet comments exploded, with countless bullet comments streaming through every minute and second, stirring everyone's enthusiasm and curiosity. In the Asian region, especially in Hua country, the two words Peng Lai hold unique significance. After all, with so many ancestors, even the illustrious Emperor Shi himself longed for this mythical place. Now seemingly existent in reality, Peng Lai Fairy Island aligns perfectly with the people's imagination of a fairyland, inciting an incomparable sense of excitement. On Blue Star, countless spectators felt emotionally stirred at that moment by the words, Peng Lai. People across numerous Asian countries fully aware of the significance of Peng Lai were filled with admiration, reverence, and astonishment. And these emotions, transformed into faith energy due to a causal connection, entered the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace. At the sight of the Yin-Yang two-colored steel, Su Jie wore a smile, sensing the surge of faith power. Su Jie's primordial spirit leaped out from his physical body, allowing Su Jie to witness the sky interwoven with a multitude of colorful dots, like a dense starry sea cloud, grandly surging toward the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace. Inserting divine sense into it, faint sounds akin to prayers could be vaguely heard. Incense is toxic. All this faith power contains some of the emotions from the people of Blue Star. Absorbing it directly in large quantities could blur the primordial spirit's own consciousness, influencing its identity. The wonders crafted by Mystic Sky immortal residents were prepared explicitly for this moment. The Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace can not only absorb the emotional faith energy generated due to it, but also purify and filter this power, extracting the most pure and harmless part for Su Jie to absorb. It's akin to processing some toxic food into a delicacy everyone praises after treatment. Su Jie personally witnessed the Yin-Yang two-colored steel absorbing those faith powers, the colorful emotions of faith power ultimately transforming through the Yin-Yang two-colored steel into an almost transparent hue. Su Jie's primordial spirit enveloped them. After being purified and refined, these transparent faith powers turned into the purest spiritual energy, entirely manageable for Su Jie's primordial spirit to assimilate. In an instant, Su Jie's eyes sparkled, overwhelmed by tremendous pleasure sweeping through his body and mind. Su Jie's primordial spirit also burst into a dazzling golden light, forming a golden body. Su Jie's primordial spirit among the Tao platform realm cultivators belongs to the leading tier, capable of using the Dharma form at the God unification realm. This is a power that only a primordial spirit in the Yang God realm can grasp, which is enough to show the strength of Su Jie's primordial spirit cultivation. Now, having absorbed a vast amount of faith power, Su Jie's primordial spirit is rapidly heightening at a speed visible to the naked eye. This alternative path of faith becoming divinity has been successfully traversed by Su Jie. The surging faith power, refined by the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace, is absorbed by Su Jie's primordial spirit, igniting Su Jie's primordial spirit essence, making Su Jie's primordial spirit radiate with golden light, like the golden body divine image from myth and legend, exuding an aura of solemnity and divinity. Su Jie's primordial spirit is using the faith power to ignite the divine fire, elevating the throne, with the primordial spirit continually transforming toward the Yang God. This ignition of the primordial spirit's ethereal divine fire is allowing Su Jie to step closer to the Yang God realm. This is precisely the unique faith refining path brought about by the Mystic Sky immortal residence, giving Su Jie growth. Of course, a bigger reason is that Su Jie possesses the treasure trove that is Blue Star. If Su Jie were just an ordinary Tao platform realm cultivator without the billions of people on Blue Star, merely relying on the Mystic Sky immortal residence, wanting to walk the faith refining path was unimaginably difficult. Look at the situation of the Fire Cloud Palace. They crafted many wonders through the Mystic Sky immortal residence, including the earthly level wonder, the Red Shining Immortal Palace. But the Fire Cloud Palace did not see a massive emergence of Yang God realm experts because of this. Instead, they are troubled every year with maintaining the Red Shining Immortal Palace, and the sect has gone bankrupt multiple times. This is because the environment of Tianyuan world is not suitable for the cultivation of faith power. Even as the leading sect in Jingzhou, under the territory management of the Fire Cloud Palace, the population doesn't match even a fraction of the Jekka Group's managed populace, let alone is comparable to Blue Star. In Tianyuan world, the populace is still scattered, unable to be like on Blue Star where a single live broadcast by the Jekka Group can gather billions of viewers to witness the Yin-Yang Sea suppressing palace, collecting their faith power. In Tianyuan world, unless the Fire Cloud Palace can fly the Red Shining Immortal Palace across the world, opening the eyes of the Delhi dynasty, they would run all around the nation and find not half as many people, let alone as many audience members. Such a trend of flying the Red Shining Immortal Palace, the Fire Cloud Palace would go bankrupt sooner due to insufficient spirit stones to sustain the Red Shining Immortal Palace. Additionally, although many people in Tianyuan world know of the path of cultivation, as they witness wonders, they support with faith power, but not as shockingly and devoutly as Blue Star's populace. In a certain respect, Blue Star people who've never seen the mystical system are like country bumpkins, naturally getting emotionally stirred, providing more faith-based emotions for things that break their existing perceptions. The integration of these complex factors led to Su Jie's breakthrough into the Yang God realm this time. To Su Jie, the Mystic Sky immortal residence is absolutely like adding wings to a tiger, and Blue Star's large environment allows this unique divine refining magic skill to be utilized to its fullest. Even the creator who devised this cultivation technique likely couldn't imagine someone absorbing billions of faiths to achieve the Yang God Tao within a single day. Tao River open. As Su Jie's primordial spirit was completely transformed into a brilliant gold, Su Jie suddenly tore with both hands. Solely with the primordial spirit, Su Jie tore open the Tao River in front, and the primordial spirit stepped inside. Rumble. As soon as Su Jie was inside, almost all senses disappeared. In the world of the Tao River, it's not complete darkness but a disordered perception. Yet, as Su Jie ignited the divine fire, everything around him became clearly perceivable again. The chaos scene has no boundary, where all matter, including space, time, causality, all established rules of reality here are disordered and chaotic. For instance, a piece of unknown stone originally floating in the Tao River in front of Su Jie would instantaneously appear some tens of thousands of meters away due to space disorder. At the same time chaos on the stone, at one time accelerating its disintegration, at another reversing the time, restoring to its original state. Endless divine materials gather on the stone, sometimes swelling like colossal mountains, sometimes turning into invisible dust, shifting from stone to steel, to precious gold, to lava and water, varying infinitely, no longer bound by the material construct of reality. No material can last here long. The orderly material vanishes in this place, and unordered chaos is eternal. Su Jie's primordial spirit appears here, and as an orderly entity, he's affected by the environment, with disorderly spacetime and chaotic forces eroding Su Jie's primordial spirit, intending to assimilate it into the Tao River, attempting to transform Su Jie's primordial spirit into chaos and nothingness. In the past, when Su Jie entered the Tao River, he relied on the ancient mirror for protection, but this time, Su Jie intends to rely on his own power. To achieve the Yang God, one must break through within the Tao River. Because the Yang God can be seen as the shadow of a Taoist-level entity, like how salmon live in the ocean but need to return to freshwater rivers to spawn. Humans live and grow in the current world, but when it comes to breaking through to the Yang God, they become like salmon, with the primordial spirit stepping out, arriving at the Tao River to undergo life's most significant transformation and growth. Stabilize. Su Jie's gaze sharpened, speaking the heavenly constitution. With Su Jie's words, the forces of Yin and Yang exploded mightily, Yin and Yang intermingling, representing the utmost balance, able to transform all things and able to suppress all things.